Why not?
It's nice to see you didn't file against me for my seat.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming tonight to the Hubbard County Planning Commission Board of Adjustment Monday, June 24th meeting. If you please bear with me, I will read the meeting procedure. All persons in attendance at the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment PCBOA meetings are expected to comply with the following meeting procedure. Thank you in advance for helping make this a manageable meeting. Copies of agenda item materials are available for public viewing on the table located at the back of the meeting room. These materials are not to leave the table so that others in attendance may also view them. Please turn your phones to vibrate/off during the meeting and conduct any sidebar conversations outside of the meeting room. Interruption or other interference with the orderly conduct of the PCBOA meeting will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. Disruptive persons will be removed from the meeting. The chair may terminate a speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. Written material concerning agenda items must be submitted to the Environmental Services Department by 3:30 p.m. on the Wednesday immediately prior to the meeting date. Written materials will not be accepted after this deadline or at the meeting because the PCBOA will not have sufficient time to review them prior to the meeting. Such material must state the agenda item for which it is being submitted and the name and address of the submitting party. Planning Commission business is conducted first, followed by the Board of Adjustment business. The chair will call the meeting to order and explain the meeting procedure. The chair will read each agenda item into the record and ask the applicant to come forward to the presenter's table, state his, her, or their names and address for the record, and explain his, her, or their request. The PCBOA will then discuss the agenda item with the applicant. The chair will then ask for public comment on the agenda item. To facilitate an orderly, efficient meeting, there is a 3-minute speaking time limit per speaker per agenda item unless the chair allows the speaker additional time. The chair may terminate the speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. When the chair recognizes a speaker, she or he may approach the audience podium and microphone, state his, her full name and address for the record, and write such on the speaker log, and then share his or her comments. The audience podium microphone must be used by the recognized speaker because the meeting is recorded. A member of the public may not donate his or her speaking time to another speaker. A speaker should state his or her comments and address the issue, not the applicant's. All comments are to be directed towards the PCBOA. Please do not repeat comments already made by previous speakers. The chair reserves the right to ask a group with similar comments to appoint a spokesperson. If written comments have been submitted to the PCBOA, please do not read them aloud during the meeting as they are already part of the record and copies thereof have been given to the PCBOA. After everyone wanting to speak on an agenda item has done so, the chair will close the public comment period on the agenda item. No further public comment will be taken after this point. The chair will give the applicant an opportunity to address issues raised during public comment. The PCBOA will then continue its discussion on an agenda item, and the chair will entertain a motion on it. The PCBOA may make a motion to pass, deny, or table the item. Once a motion is made and seconded, the PCBOA will develop findings of fact for conditional use permit and variance applications, and then vote on the motion. Once a vote is taken on an agenda item, the PCBOA will move on to the next agenda item. Meetings commence at 6 p.m. and continue until all agenda items have been heard or until 10 p.m. No new agenda items shall be considered after 9:45 p.m. The PCBOA may, at its discretion, continue an item that is on the floor at 10 p.m. Any remaining agenda items shall be continued to another date or time, preferably the immediately following Tuesday at 6 p.m. And no further public comments. No further public notice will be provided for such a meeting continuation. The PCBOA, through the chair, may modify these procedures prior to a meeting or an agenda item. Okay, the first thing we need to go through is the Planning Commission approval of the minutes. The approval of the May 2024 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any objections or corrections to the minutes?
This is Mike. I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as written.
This is Timothy. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike and a second by Timothy for the Planning Commission approval of the minutes for the May 2024 meeting. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. The meeting minutes have been approved. There's no old business or no new business, so we'll move right into the Board of Adjustment approval of the minutes. Anybody have any discrepancies or corrections?
This is Mike, I make the motion, we accept the minutes as written.
This is Tim, I'll second the motion.
Okay, again, we have a motion by Mike to approve the Board of Adjustment meeting minutes for May 20th, 2024, with a second by Tim. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. Those Board of Adjustment minutes have been approved. Okay, first item up for business is old business on the variance application 18V20 by Colin Metry. Okay, all right, you may come up to the table. So we have variance application 19-V-24 by Colin Metry, part of Government Lot 3, Section 24, Township 140, Range 34, Henrietta Township, on Lake Belle, Taine, a recreational development lake. Parcel 13.24.02500. The applicant is requesting a variance from sections 502.2, 503, and 703 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a proposed addition to a lakeside deck located within the 30-foot top of bluff setback. Thank you. If you could go ahead and state your name and address, and then go ahead and give us some information on your application, please.
Yeah, Colin Metry, address is 21494 County Road 80. Applying for a variance to add on to that little deck there while we remodel it and rebuild it, so.
Perfect, thank you. I just want to note for the record that the application was initially on the May 2024 meeting agenda. It was tabled due to the applicant not being present and the board having questions about the vegetation alteration observed in the bluff impact zone during the lot views. Here we are. So do we have any questions from the members for the applicant at this time about the deck expansion?
Yeah, this is Ken. Deck, I think, pretty well understand. The item of concern to me is the complete landscaping, removal of all vegetation on that hillside. Any logic as to why you did that?
There was two big oak trees that we took down that were leaning over, and it took out two other trees in doing so. Now, there was no vegetation, it was all leaves. I mean, there was some little leaves coming up here and there. So we actually, with taking those trees down, opened up some sunlight, and we came in and we planted grass right away and put straw blankets on, so that way it wouldn't erode anymore. The whole shoreline was mud from everything washing down over the years underneath those big trees. So now we have grass and oats growing, and
Obviously, we don't have any picture of before, but clearly the hillside on either side of that seems to me to be fairly well vegetated with low-growing brush and weeds and so on. Was that the way yours was?
no, well, right where there was that stump that we did leave.
Yeah. Trees trees are not the issue.
Okay.
The issue is the low-growing vegetation that's essential to erosion and water runoff.
Sure.
I'm trying to get a feel for what was there.
There wasn't that much. There was little tiny little twigs that were about this high. And we tried to not, we basically went right up and over. Even today, I was just out there, and a lot of those little ones are coming back already. You can kind of see the twigs in the picture there. I don't know what that vegetation would be called, I guess, if it was a brush or anything like that. But we did pick up the 3 trees, so we have 3 trees.
Did
that
it
you
look
guys
like
requested.
what's to the right of what you cleared? Did it look like that pretty much?
In this picture here?
No, the summer pictures that are in our packet.
Like to my neighbor's property to the right? It wasn't that thick,
It would
no.
be, yes, I think that is in your neighbor's property. There's a line there.
Yeah, it wasn't that thick.
Eric, do you, yeah. Yeah, those. Do you have those pictures?
It would be this last set that we received. Supporting documents, maybe.
There. To the right of all that, there.
Yep. Yeah, it was not like
Like
that.
Did it pretty much look like this here?
To the right?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that thick.
Is there any reason why wasn't like that?
I guess we bought it in November when that was kind of how it was.
Okay, we don't have any before pictures then.
There was one big oak tree that
Just-
was lean. Oh,
Yeah, no, the
Just
oaks
snow-covered
don't
stuff, Ken.
prevent runoff or erosion,
no.
so, okay,
Okay. Okay, moving back to the lakeside deck, I understand Ken's concerns about the erosion and such.
Sure.
We might look into some mitigation for the deck here.
Okay.
Your request says it's to enlarge an existing lakeside deck on the cabin, which wholly is within the bluff impact zone. The existing deck is 12 feet 5 wide by 8 deep. And the proposed addition would wrap around that northwest corner of the cabin in the L shape, 10 foot 4 inches by 16, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the proposed addition wouldn't go any closer to the lake than the existing deck?
No.
Okay, at this time, if we don't have any other questions from the board members, I'm gonna go ahead and open public comment. And it appears we don't have any public comment, so I will close public comment. With the erosion, and you do have grass coming out during the lot views, we noticed that you do have grass starting. Definitely would probably need to be seeded again to
Yep.
keep it going
Keep it
and
going.
keep it, up there.
We did just reseed again on Friday before the snow or the rain, so.
Perfect, good. I think that I would be open to some mitigation, as we discussed also during lot views, of having something, some type of shrubs, low vegetation to help with that runoff.
Yep, right at that crest.
Yep,
were
right
talking?
there,
Okay.
that would probably be the same width, at least, that your deck is.
Okay,
Possibly a smidge over, just a little bit,
bigger. Yeah.
Would you be open to a condition of such?
Yeah.
To help with that runoff?
Yep.
Okay. Ken, had you considered any type of,
well, from my standpoint, the whole bluff area needs some low-growing brush type vegetation that's going to keep it in place and protect runoff. And you probably ought to be at least 5, probably 10 feet from the crest back towards the deck should also have it. Now, there's lots of, I can't tell you what to do, and probably a professional landscaper could, or the SWCD.
Okay.
And there are lots of things, red osier dogwoods, willows, Canada anemone, lots of things, wild barrel, elderberry, there's all kinds of little things that will grow like that or a little bit higher, especially on the hillside, that will prevent runoff.
Sure.
And I would like a condition that we agree on some kind of, I'll call it remediation on the bluff and back from the crest a little ways as part of a condition for a deck, from my personal standpoint. So,
This is
and of course
Tim.
gutter, I think gutters on the house, on the front of the house. And if you're worried about running off to the neighbor, you could do a rain barrel. I
Okay.
don't know if you know what a rain barrel is, which is, in this case, would be probably a great way to go in terms of, because you just got the front side of the house that you're trying to cover. So I don't.
Right.
that's-
I have a question for you. What were your plans for the future for that hillside?
So we were just gonna plant some, like you mentioned, some shrubs along that top side to slow any water running off. And then other than that, we were just gonna have it grass like it is and have just the, I guess the deck, that was kind of.
So you were never gonna brush cut it?
Ooh, no, we're
You're
gonna
not
leave it tall.
gonna
It's
run
too
a
steep.
mower up and down it? You're just gonna let it naturally grow back?
Oh, it is. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
This is Mike. I guess I'm in agreement with needing to protect that bluff and do some shrubbery, brush planting there. And and further condition, I think if the grass is established there and it's a no-mow zone, it would certainly help to plant some shrubs in there, but even to let it come back naturally, I think would probably be sufficient as long as the upper sides are protected to slow that rain runoff down, and then the gutters, I'm also in agreement.
Okay, so thank you. So from my understanding, you're okay. So you're talking a no-mow zone on that whole area that you're talking that you're not gonna mow?
After the crest.
After the
Yes,
crest?
that's not being
Right,
touched.
okay.
Yep.
And so as long as grass is seeded above the crest, no shrubs on your end is necessary?
I'd like to see the shrubs on
Oh,
the
okay.
top side, but
Perfect.
then if we just let it go naturally.
On the end, yeah, where he
whereas
has the straw.
no-mow area would be sufficient in my mind.
Okay. Okay, so for clarification, we have the no-mow basically from the entire stuff that you've already replanted and
Yep.
put the straw down on the entire bluff area. But the top of the crest is where we're looking at some low shrubs across. Approximately the size of the deck would be 13 feet. How deep would you like to see these low-growing shrubs?
Well, if you're looking at a buffer zone, I think you'd like at least 10 feet from the crest back towards the house. But, and maybe a little bit different than Mike's view, I don't think just grass on that steep a slope is sufficient to protect against long-term erosion and runoff. That typically you'd want some low-growing brush plants. So it's up to my colleagues, but I really think that if you want to protect the lake and that hillside, you're gonna need more than just that grass planting that you have.
Yep, we mentioned too, my wife and I were just brainstorming this weekend, but we're gonna plant a few shrubs throughout it just to kind of break up that full grass hillside too, so that would definitely go with what you're
Could
thinking
we
of.
place a condition that he have a professional landscaper come and recommend
Do you guys mind
what
if I?
kinds of plants, shrubs, et cetera?
Would the soil and water conservation people do that? Would that?
SWCD does it, any one of the local, I don't want to call them greenhouses or places that they have that. SWCD, I think that is one of the things they do as courtesy, would come out and sort of say, hey, I'd recommend this or that. Could even get access what you need from them.
Yeah. I will state too, I do excavating for a living, so we work on shorelines every day.
Do what?
And I do excavating for a living, so we tear places down like this and build places every day. So we work right behind the landscapers the whole time, right in front of the landscapers. So I have numerous amounts of contacts I can call to find out what
Okay.
is the best thing to put.
But I think a condition should be a submitted plan to environmental services and for them to approve it. And the key thing is that crest, but also you're gonna need some things on the hillside. Anything I know and have read would clearly recommend that that's pretty critical to it, so.
Okay. And then at the top of the crest, you said, what's the distance from the crest to the deck?
It's not very much.
That's what I was
where
thinking. It's not
I'd
as,
like to try to push back on that 10-foot buffer if I'm able to put brushes throughout that whole hillside, just because there's not much room in between it.
Visually, I would say it's about 20 feet to the deck, to the peak or whatever, but the drawing doesn't show it that way, so I don't know.
The
What
grass
do you-
is growing in really nice now too, so you can kind of see it. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
even quite 20 feet.
yeah,
You
so it
you look at
kinda,
where the steep place. Anybody else, what's your view about? I figure about 20 feet, so about half that distance would be, and you still got walk room between it. I don't know. Tim, what's your recollection?
I'd like to have some
I,
grass.
I think he had a yard there before, and so sticking right to that crown was something close, seems reasonable to me.
And this is Veronica, and I'm not opposed to that. I'm in agreement. I think if we're going to put a condition that a professional landscaper or the SWCD provide remediation on the whole bluff slope, and that it has to be submitted to Environmental Services Office for approval, then I think that's gonna help a lot. And if we do a 13 by 3 foot, section to help, that way he still gives him yard space, because we're gonna have that section and then the entire rest of the,
I think the professional plan, let them decide what they think is reasonable.
and then again, the last one would be the gutters on the lakeside, directing stormwater away from the lake, and, if needed.
May I ask is there a timeline on when those gutters have to be installed?
Pull the microphone closer to,
He was asking if there's a timeline
There's
for
a
the.
timeline on the gutters, because we are planning on remodeling the exterior of that next spring. And I'll be putting gutters on it at that point too. So it's like, do I put gutters on now to take them off if we have everything else?
waiting until
Until he gets his exterior remodeling done to probably
Okay.
match up that other
you
little
do
building.
siding and stuff on the,
Yeah,
okay. I don't, timing's okay. Actually, by then, you'll see what grass grows up and how it survives, maybe the plant.
it's growing up fantastic
is
already. The
adjustable.
rain we've had.
Eric, generally, is there a time frame when conditions are placed, unless we put it on there specifically, otherwise is it the 5-year?
It's all up to how you
Okay.
word the
Okay.
condition.
Does that stake represent the crest of the bluff?
No, that was the corner of the deck.
Is it-
deck,
Yeah, that's what I figured, the sherb. Okay,
Okay, does anyone care about a time frame, or would like to set a time frame? Do we wanna,
Why don't we set it for sometime next summer when the remodeling's completed in 2025, no later than August 1st? Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
okay, anybody else have any questions or comments, or are we ready to, make a motion? Okay, go ahead, Mike.
This is Mike. I'll make the motion that we approve the application, the variance, with the conditions that gutters be placed on it by August 1st, 2025, or as soon after the construction is completed, but no later than August 25th, and that the SWCD or other landscaping firm submit a plan to the Environmental Services Office to revegetate with brush that hillside and the bluff top, what they think is in their best judgment.
Okay, and how about the low shrubs across the bluff crest, that we discussed, 13 feet by 3 feet?
13 feet, yes.
Okay. Okay, and this is Veronica. I second the motion. So we have a motion by Mike to approve the application as presented per the site plan, with the first condition to provide gutters on the lakeside, directing stormwater away from the lake no later than August 1st of next year, but earlier would be great. And number 2, to have a professional landscaper or SWCD supply remediation on the bluff, and submit that to the Environmental Services Office for approval. And that also, once that is in place, it must be maintained, okay? The shrubs and stuff, don't let them just die off and then we're back to square one.
ozone
Yeah.
must be.
And then, and then the 13 by 3 low shrubs across the bluff with the no-mow zone. So,
And I accept the staff findings of fact.
okay, perfect. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Can I vote aye?
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye. So you'll be receiving a decision letter from Environmental Services stating the decision and the conditions if you have any questions, and then you'll still have to get permits and such as well. So, okay, all right, give them a few days.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, all right, now we're moving on to new business. Variance application 20-B-24 by Michael Dunn, parts of government lot 8, section 20, township 141, range 34, Lake Emma Township on Potato Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 16.20.03500. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 702 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a proposed addition to a non-conforming dwelling located in the shore impact zone. Do we have the applicant available? Okay. Perfect. You may come to the presenters table, please. State your name and address, and then you can proceed with your request.
My name's Gary Shaw. I'm owner of Up North Construction. I live at 15410 County 18, Park Rapids. I'm representing Mike Dunn as he has a bank board meeting in Iowa.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Shaw. And you can go ahead and tell us what you're looking over.
we're proposing a screened-in porch, 9 by 12, single level, roof matching existing cabin. It is away from on the opposite side of the cabin, so away from the lake it'll be proposed.
Okay, this is Veronica speaking. I just also wanted to add that that porch on the rear side of the house itself is located in the shore impact zone at 42.7 feet setback. That was built before the ordinance was enacted and enlarged by permit in 1977. The house sits at the toe of a bluff, and there is a large 7 to 8 foot height retaining wall behind the house that holds the slope in place. This retaining wall was also allowed to be built by a 2004 variance. And out there, we noted that the retaining wall is doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
So, does anyone have any questions?
This Ken, just for confirmation, you do not intend to alter that retaining wall?
Not at
Everything
all.
will stay as it is?
It'll stay as is. It'll actually be a walkway between the addition.
Okay. And
And the retaining
is there any excavation that you have to do?
No,
You're
We'll
just gonna
remove-
remove the deck there and
correct.
lay a platform?
Foundations in there and then put a floor on there.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, if anybody else have any comments, otherwise I'm going to open for public comment. Okay, and seeing there's no public comment, I will close public comment.
This is Mike. I'd also like to note for the record, this won't add any impervious surface to the area since already it's a hardscape. So with the condition that any excavation be done as submitted in the plan, I'm in favor of this.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I think I'm at the same. Everything seems to be, it's pretty easy. The proposed addition is on the non-lake side. No excavation is going to be necessary, so I agree. I am in favor of the application as well. Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
This is Mike. I make the motion that we approve the variance application with the condition that any excavation be done as presented in the application and accept the staff's findings of fact.
This is Ken, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mike and a second by Ken. Findings of facts were adopted by the staff report with the condition that no excavation is done as presented on the application. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye. So, thank you. Yeah, the Environmental Service Office will be sending the applicants there. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item up. Variance application 21-V-24 by James Preiner and Hyacith Mosse. Lot 3, Block 1, Sunset Shores, Section 23, Township 141, Range 34, Lake Emma Township on Lake Emma, a recreational development lake, parcel 16.72.00300. The applicants are requesting a variance from Section 502.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for proposed lakeside deck to be located within the 100-foot ordinary high water mark structure setback. Okay, thank you. Go ahead and speak your name, please, and your address for the record.
My name's James Preiner. My address is 20352.
Thank you, Mr. Preiner. Can you go ahead and just give us a brief description of what your request is?
We were planning on building a deck on the lakeside of our home, and we were coming up a little bit short on one side to have it be rectangular in shape. And so we're just requesting a adjustment to the setback so we can have a 10-foot deck rather than an L-shaped or trapezoidal-shaped deck surface on the lakeside.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Preiner. During our lot views, I think I asked you to direct me where the property line was.
Yeah.
Do you know the distance to that property line? Because I don't know the distance. Is that the distance on the screen there, or is that something?
It says 15 feet off of the corner of the house there.
And that's what you're presuming is appropriate then, right at 15 feet?
Yeah, I mean,
Have you had the property lines surveyed or anything? Or you know pretty specific where they're at?
I've never had them surveyed. I do know where both pins are along that line.
Perfect.
I guess I've never put a tape measure on it.
When did you purchase the property?
January of 21 or 22.
And was the patio that's on the lakeside, that concrete patio that's in front of that garage, was it there as well
Yep,
at the time?
absolutely.
Do I have any questions or comments from the members?
This is Ken, just for a note of point. The issue is that just the corner of that red tape we see close to us, there's just a corner of that encroaches into the 100-foot setback, and that probably over 85% of the deck does meet the required setback. So this is, it's like 44 square feet out of what, 360 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's a very minor incursion into the setback zone. And I just, for the record, reviewing his shoreline, as an excellent shoreline with a very appropriate rec area, the rest well vegetated and controlled. So I think that definitely mitigates any slight incursion from the deck.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
This is Mike, and the applicant stated that when his construction's finished there on the front of the house, he will be putting gutters back onto the house. And I would make that a condition of this, but otherwise I think it looks good and I'm in agreement with Ken.
There aren't any other comments. I'm gonna go ahead and open for public comment. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. I do have another quick question. This house said it was built in 1997, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's the same house, hasn't been changed?
Never
Okay,
been
besides
changed.
the fire, I
Besides
understand
being
that,
burned, yeah.
I have a question. Was there any advantage of that house being at that angle to the shoreline? Could you see something better or anything out the window?
No, it was a mistake. According to my neighbor, Richard Aho, the guy who staked it for the slab in the basement did it incorrectly. And I think the intention was to have it 12 feet back off of the 100-foot line, and they screwed that up. So the one corner is right on the 100-foot setback, and then the other is 12. So it was a mistake.
I see.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns about the 10 by 18 foot pavers that are completely pretty much in that setback. Okay. Anyone prepared to make a motion?
This is Tim. I'll make a motion to approve this application. I'll answer these findings. Is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls? I'd say yes. It's only 44 square feet of area, and the increased size right there is, we're seeing that it's not gonna harm the lake in any way by being there. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? A lakeside deck is reasonable, and I believe in your application, there was a deck actually drawn on the permit, you said in.
Yeah, the original building permit for the home had a proposed deck on it. On the lakeside.
Is the need for variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners? Yes, the house was built at an angle to the shoreline. By mistake or for better view, I don't know. And also that there was in the drawing of the original permit, there was a request for a deck in the drawing. And I'll adopt the staff's findings for 4 and 5.
Okay.
This is Mike, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Tim to approve the variance application as per site plan. And second by Mike with the creating the findings of facts. Number 1 was to allow the 10 by 36 decks as a minimum portion was 44 square feet inside the 100-foot ordinary high watermark setback. And number 2, having a lakeside deck was a reasonable request. And then number 3, the residential structure was not parallel to the shoreline, with that northwest corner being closest to the 100-foot setback. And then number 4 and 5 were adopted to staff's, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Tim, how do you vote?
Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Ken, this is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. Your application has been approved. You'll receive a decision letter from the Environmental Services Office, and you'll still need to get permits for that deck, okay?
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, next item on the agenda, variance application 22-V-24 by Paula Parker, part of Lot 13 and all of lots 14 through 24, Block 1, Colatotepe Park, Section 10, Township 141, Range 35, Ergo Township on Island Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 02.38.00900. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 701, 702, and 703 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for proposed expansion of a dwelling devoted to a non-conforming use that is located in the shore impact zone, and a proposed lakeside deck that encroaches waterward more than 15% of the dwelling's ordinary high watermark setback. Do we have the applicant available? Okay, it does not appear that we have the applicant available, but we do have the opportunity to go ahead and proceed with the application if we don't have any problems or questions for the applicant. How does the board feel about proceeding, or would we table?
I'd go
Yep.
through with it.
Okay, this is Veronica. I'm in agreement. I would go through. Everybody else in agreement with? Okay. Ken, you're okay with moving forward and going through the application?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Just for the record, the deck requires a variance from section 701 of the ordinance because it constitutes an enlargement of a structure devoted to a non-conforming use. Section 703 allows a 7-foot lakeward deck from the 47-foot ordinary high watermark setback, as it is 15% of the structure's 47-foot ordinary high watermark setback. Given where the deck is proposed to be placed on the south end of the cabin that sits further from the lake than the north end and its dimensions, the 10-foot lakeward extent of the deck will not go closer to the ordinary high watermark than the 40-foot ordinary high watermark setback allowed by section 703. So after further review, the variance from section 703 is not required. During the lot views, I did note that there was a little swell between the cabin and the lake. I think I pointed that out to a couple members, that the stormwater runoff pretty much goes and doesn't go into the lake, so that is definitely a benefit since it is in the shore impact zone.
This is kind of, the analysis says that there is no variance required for the deck because it meets the setbacks and are the 15% and 30 feet. So the only issue is approving the construction of going from a flat roof to a gabled roof.
And the deck is,
That is the, no?
no, the deck is still, because it's enlarging a non-conforming structure, it's enlarging still, correct? We still have to have that part too. So it's still both. The only part that isn't, that's not pertaining is that section 703, because the size does still meet the setback requirements.
Why do I read that that will go no closer than 30 feet allowed by 703? So after further review, a variance from section 703 is not required.
Correct, yeah,
Okay,
701 and 702 are.
correct.
yeah, okay. Because of construction of it, okay.
So, before moving forward, I'm gonna go ahead open for public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. Do we have any questions or concerns on what the roof is going to be, whether it's gabled or matching hip?
I think we just make the condition it built as per drawings submitted.
Okay, yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, just for some supporting statements, I'm in agreement with approving the application. Rebuilding this portion of the cabin is reasonable to get that pitched roof on it because it has fallen into disrepair. And having that lakeside deck on the cabin is also a reasonable request, and that deck will not go any closer to the ordinary high water mark than what the section 703 allows. So, at this time, I can make a motion to approve the application, adopt the staff's findings of facts, and I'm definitely making the motion as per site plan.
This is Tim, I'll second the motion.
Okay, so motion by myself, seconded by Tim, to approve the application as presented per site plan, adopting the staff's findings of facts. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye. Okay, next item on the agenda. Variance application 23-B-24 by Laurel Torkelson, part of the northwest quarter of the northwest quarter, section 11, township 139, range 33, Crow Wing Lake Township on Wallingford Creek, a tributary, parcel 06.11.00300. The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance from Part 1, Section 502.7 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a dwelling placed in a bluff impact zone, and Part 2, Sections 502.7 and 902 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a subsurface sewage treatment system placed in a bluff impact zone, and Part 3, Section 902 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for excavation in the bluff impact zone. So thank you. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Parker Torkelson. My address is 15616 Chokecherry Drive. I am a proxy for Laurel Torkelson.
All right, thank you, and go ahead and please state the request.
Yeah, we're requesting to finish a project that we started. We were unaware of permitting at that location. I know my mother had got a hold of the county about permitting on it and was told she needed to get a hold of the township. She got a hold of the township member, and they said that there's no permit needed. So we thought we were okay to build there, how we had it. We built on the bluff because it matches what my house is on a bluff with a walkout basement. We were trying to build similar to what was already there, what was already, next to that building. And then we did do a permit for septic. I did not get the septic completed within the permitting time. That's where kind of all this fell into play, is when the septic was getting inspected, there was issue with shoreline management.
Okay, thank you. How do you propose entering the cabin?
So when we did the foundation there, you can see the ICFs are extended past the building there, and that was to support the deck that was going up there to access that sliding door, since that is the only access to the cabin. So when the foundation was done, it was already poured to support the deck.
Okay, so where would the stairway be? I would be on
So
side,
on
or-
the side of the picture that we're facing, the plan was to do concrete stairs down to the end of that short wall to access the walkout in the bottom. And then the other side, we were going to do a concrete up to the deck, so they could walk onto the deck on the far side, where the high wall is. If you see that?
So you're gonna do concrete, like a 4-foot?
Yeah, a
Sidewalk
sidewalk. Yep, correct.
on
A
that
sidewalk
side.
on the far side, where up against to the ICFs. So they had access to the deck on that side, and then a concrete staircase going down on the
The side we're
This
seeing,
side.
okay? So another question. There's no way, to my knowledge, that there's to get upstairs or downstairs from the inside,
correct.
and it's gonna remain that way?
It's going to remain that way. So the basement was going to be for utilities and storage.
Okay, I noted that since you had the garage type door on there. That was my next question, is if you were gonna have anything down there besides utilities, so.
So it was utilities and overflow storage, because it's a very small cabin. It's only 12 by 24.
So the deck across the front that you're considering, the length of the poured foundation there, do you have those dimensions? I think I have,
I believe it was 12 by 24. I think it was the same size as the cabin, if I remember correctly. It was the same length, which was 24, and I believe it was the same width, 12.
Looks like the drawing's calling for 26 feet.
and that could include those overhangs, or is there a little bit of an overhang on the cabin?
Must be the overhang on the
Yeah.
cabin,
Okay,
but the foundation was 24,
Okay.
correct.
This is Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Was there an original permit pulled for this construction?
No, because we believed we were in a non-permit area. We did not realize we were in a shoreline management permitting area. I had built on that property that before without a permit, and it has been just fine, but it was set back, I guess, enough that apparently this is within the 500-foot mark, I believe, of the creek, which puts it in shoreline management, which we were unaware of that distance at the time.
So you're unaware of the issue that you were in a bluff zone?
No, I knew I was in a bluff zone, but I did not realize I was in a shoreline management area. I was obviously on a bluff, I knew that. I was trying to match the same type of construction as my house, which is approximately 300 yards away, which is closer to the creek, which is, and so I was trying to match that same style of construction. Like I said, I did not realize that we were in a permitting area for that. Because we had built on that property before, it's just, it was further back that it didn't require permitting, and when we went to get permits, we weren't required. And so we assumed, well, we didn't assume, we actually, my mother actually asked and was told that there was no permit necessary at that time.
This is Tim. I have a question for you.
Hi, Tim.
By the ordinance description, can you tell the difference between a bluff and a steep hill? Could you tell me the difference?
I believe a bluff has a flat and then drops, but I guess I haven't read the ordinance, so I couldn't tell you without reading it.
So you just know it's a pretty big hill.
I know it's a very big hill. I am on a very big hill as well.
Okay.
Eric, the shoreline zone for a creek is 500 feet? And this says 200 feet. So-
Yeah.
on the drawing that I have here, right? So the issue here is you thought you were outside of the shoreline management zone for a creek.
We didn't realize we were in that creek was a shoreline management creek. That's what we did not understand.
Okay. And you never thought to ask?
My mother did ask if we needed permitting there, and she was told no. And then we were also approved on the septic plan, which shows the setback from the creek, shows that it's on a slope, and all those situations. So, we were, so that kind of threw us as well, being that septic plan was approved.
Right, and this is Veronica speaking. So septic is across the board for all of Hubbard County, not just the shoreland part. So
Okay.
I could see where you might have had a little why the red flags didn't go off. I understand that. And Eric, for Ken possibly, could you please pull up the maps, the GIS maps with the shoreline so that Ken can see maybe where the applicant is trying to explain where part of his property is in shoreline and the shop that you were referencing is not, which is probably, again, why his mother, when she called in, didn't think that they needed. So once he puts the shoreland layer on, you'll see where it stops. And while he's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and open for public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close for public comment. So you can see there why he thought maybe a permit wasn't necessary, because part of his property is not in the shoreland. And he didn't need a permit for that shop.
I'm confused.
This is
500
Mike.
feet, and this is,
He
no,
did not need a permit when he
here,
did that.
here's the property, isn't it?
Right.
Right, and he didn't need a permit for this, and when his mother called in, they were in the assumption that there wasn't a permit necessary for right there either. And unfortunately, there was.
Yeah.
So,
This is Mike. I see it as a case where the right questions might not have been asked, and so an assumption was made, and now it's proven that it's not correct.
Is this his structure
My
here?
concern here, I think mainly is
thing
in
there?
restoration of all of the disturbed bluff area. I'm not sure I see an advantage to saying, well, you're gonna move it or move the septic system in the drain field. But I do see a need to restore what's been disturbed here, so that'd be my concern.
Yeah, I think the plan is to permit wild growth again, and set it up how, it's a backwoods cabin. It's not planned to be a yard there. We want it to grow weedy and bushy like it was. That's the plan.
I think my concern is not just to let that happen, but to actually take an active role in planting, to get a ground cover and shrubs and things reestablished on all the area that's been disturbed.
Sure.
See, this Ken, you have a garage or a shed there that, if I recall from reading, is that required an after-the-fact permit. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Correct, that's a different garage that was brought in with a,
Yeah. When was that built?
it was brought in, built, it was,
Okay, when was it placed there?
approximately, I want to say midsummer of 2023.
Summer of 2022. When did you get the permit for it? The after-the-fact permit?
I'm not sure when that, I think that was just filed.
What I'm trying to get at, did you get that permit before you did the current construction on on the cabin?
No, sir. No, that permit was applied
You built
for.
the foundation, you built the foundation that you brought the cabin and put it on. You built that before you had to get you were notified that you needed an after-the-fact permit for that garage?
Correct. So the garage was actually put in after the foundation of the cabin, and we were unaware of the permitting situation until just this last fall. But that garage and slab were poured the summer before anybody showed up to let us know and had informed us that our permitting was not adequate. So that after the fact permit for the garage was done because it was already there, and we didn't realize, that was after we realized we needed a permit. And the house was already done like it is. And I immediately stopped all work when we realized we were out of compliance with permitting.
Yeah. Eric, the permit for the SSTS, was the drawings that they showed, showing it in the bluff zone, available when that permit was granted?
You're talking in the septic plan?
Yeah,
Here's what we have for the septic sketches on.
I'm having trouble hearing.
The septic sketch is on the screen, and you can't tell anything from it.
You can't tell from anything there.
Well, it says that the distance is from the creek and that it's on a slope.
Who did the construction, the foundation construction for you?
I did.
You did?
I did the excavating, yep.
Did you do the septic?
I did, yes. I dug the septic line and set the tank. The drain field is not installed currently. I didn't have time to do it at this moment, so it's just a line to the tank.
All of this under the presumption that that location was not covered by the shoreline management ordinance.
Correct, sir.
And you knew that was 500 feet? You knew that setback was 500 feet?
I did not know that at the time. I did not realize that the creek we lived on was under shoreline management.
Why would you not think a creek would be part of the shoreline management ordinance?
I didn't understand that, and that is me. I guess I built that shop and didn't have any issue with needing a permit or anything. And so I did not believe it was under any management.
Okay.
This is Veronica speaking. I already visited with you they've already got the information from you about the after-the-fact permit for the other structures, and you said, yes, those have been submitted for that garage, correct?
For the garage, correct.
Yep. And your other structure in the northwest corner of the property, that shop is outside of shoreland, and so we've established that. I think I personally can understand where the confusion was. When I looked at your property on the map and I pulled up all the layers, there's 40 acres there, but there's not a whole lot of workable area. You've got wetlands everywhere. I mean,
Correct.
you can't do much. Can you go ahead, please, Eric, and turn those shoreland layers back on? The area, the cabin itself that you've placed is in the bluff impact zone. That is a given. But when the shoreland lines come on, that whole creek runs through the majority of those 40 acres. And it's mostly wetlands. And then there's the whole bluff section that runs through that corner. It also runs on the lower section just a little bit as well. I understand where the property owner probably called and did not need a permit for that shop. I could see where they were under the same impression since they got the septic, it didn't raise any red flags, that permit. So I understand it was unfortunate that it happened, and definitely because we're in the bluff impact zone, I can see where the confusion took place. I personally don't have any problems with the application, approving the application with some conditions on the structure. I already asked the questions about the deck. I definitely would put some conditions on your deck size because you are in the bluff impact zone, that it wouldn't exceed the dimensions that you already mentioned to me, which I believe you said were 12 by 26.
12 by 24.
12 by 24.
So I think the original plan, what my mother hadn't planned, was to have that be a covered deck. So the roof line might be that 12 by 26. We were going to try to match it up with the roof of the current structure. And that was their original idea.
So I have another question then. So this is a modest sized cabin. Like you mentioned, it's not very large.
Correct.
And with this being a 40-acre lot and you only have a little bit of buildable space, with this cabin being modest, are there any future plans for a larger residential structure outside of the shoreland?
I don't believe so, no. Not at this time. We do have a large family. This property has been in our family since around 1990 era. I bought the 5 acres adjoining, the 35, I believe, is my mom's property there. That's where my house lies. My wife and I purchased that, and we do not plan to sell that property. I don't believe we don't have any plan to build any other structure, any other livable structures.
So then you wouldn't be opposed to a restriction then saying that it could not be expanded because it is in the bluff impact zone?
Absolutely not.
I mean,
Yeah.
except for whatever possible conditions that we may have that we've already discussed with that deck and then maybe the covered porch.
Yes, we do not plan on expanding that cabin one bit.
So that if you did decide to do a residential structure later on down the road, then it would most likely would be its best interest to be outside of shoreland.
Correct. Because now that we understand the permitting side, I believe that would be a given, absolutely.
This is,
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just curious, do we have a distance from the creek to the structure?
I saw two different numbers, 200, and then I saw 297 on the septic one, I think. Right?
I guess it depends on where you take it from on the creek, because it winds and
He
dines.
just asking the question.
Closest point, yeah. So approximately 300 feet would, okay.
Is that
Thank
what
you,
the,
that's all I needed to know, I just wanted to make sure I had that distance.
This is Tim. I have a question. I believe when we were on the site, the bluff was mainly on the side you have your line drawn there. As we go around the corner to the west, it turns into more of a steep hill than actual bluff, so it's like a transition there.
Between the septic tank and the house is somewhere where it transitions,
Okay.
but it's hard
So,
to tell due to the alterations.
I thought the drain field was gonna be more in a steep slope area rather than a bluff area myself.
You're correct on that, yeah.
is to the right side as you look from the cabin towards the creek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're noting that that's not as steep as it would be to the left.
Do you have a timeline for when this would be completed, at least the septic system?
No, I don't. I did have help lined up to do the deck side, but then I canceled all those plans. So I have to. I do not have a timeline at all. I would like to, if I can complete the septic, I would like to do it this summer and still finish that. If it's approved. If not, then we will kind of adjust from there. But I would like to have it done, the septic side done by the, probably by the early fall would be my guess. And I guess that depends on what has to be done with the septic. If it's required to be moved or whatever, then that changes my timeline tremendously. If I'm allowed to dig a drain field on that steep slope or you know, where the proposed drain field was, then my timeline would be, would be this summer. But if it has to be moved or we have to do something else, then it's gonna change my timeline.
Well, this is Veronica speaking. During the lot views, like you had mentioned, we had discovered that the trenches had not been in place. They were marked and identified to show us where they were going to be, and that's the location that you still intend to use if it's possible. Is that correct?
If possible, that's where I would like to make it. It would make it a gravity system, which is very low maintenance, and we have the soils to do so there.
And I think we also discovered, like Tim was saying, that it's a little bit more of a steep slope there than the bluff. Is that where we're all okay? I don't have any problems with the septic staying in the place that it's been since the trenches have not been utilized. It is not, the area is still usable. It has not been compromised. Obviously, you would still have to get a new permit if this gets approved. You still have to go back since you let that permit expire. You would have to amend or, you know, reapply and so on and so forth.
Understandable.
Okay, so at this time, if I'm not exactly sure how everybody's leaning, but it kind of sounds like we're on the path to possibly approving the application with some of the conditions. The conditions that I would like to see placed would be, same as Mike, restore the bluff impact zone after completion of the cabin. I still think we should put a time frame on there to some sort when you're gonna do that sidewalk and stuff. I mean, are we saying like next summer you can, if this goes, because I know we're already halfway into the summer here.
Right.
Would that be a possibility for you to complete that bluff impact zone area by 2025? I would just like to have a deadline on it so that you can submit photos and documentation to environmental services.
Right. I think by the end of the working year, you know, the summer working year, or the summer fall year of 2025, I think that's very reasonable to be able to have that done, if you guys would allow.
Yeah, October 1st.
October 1st is what I was thinking.
Yeah, yep, that's kind of the end of the summer working year. I think that's reasonable. I don't see why we can't have that deadline.
And then my second possible condition would be that you would be allowed one lakeside covered deck, 12 by 24, not to exceed that dimensions that you mentioned.
Is that the base footprint or the roof footprint?
I was going with the base, the same as the house.
Okay.
The same as the cabin, because you said it was 12, and with the overhangs, that's where we got the 14. Is that right?
Yep. So that sounds, yep.
And then for myself, again, that the cabin itself could not be enlarged in any other way.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Or can-
I do have one comment. We did see erosion up near where the excavation was near the cabin, but beyond that, where the bluff is, there wasn't. So that flat spot that he created is not harming that bluff right now, but I agree, we have to have it restored, but
Restored, yeah.
nothing was damaged in that spot.
What does restored mean, vegetation or literally actually grading? What are we asking for?
Well, I agree with Tim as far as when we went down into that area walking in front of the poured foundation and stuff, and even further, as you see on the screen, there was no erosion there. The only erosion at the time was right beside the cabin where the washout was. And that's gonna be filled in more. It's gonna be brought in when he completes the staircase.
Okay.
And the sidewalk he mentioned goes on the other side. And again, as long as you don't go 4 feet wider on that staircase or that sidewalk, then that's within shoreland management ordinance. And if you have any questions before you do anything, please call Environmental Services Office.
So, 4 feet wide on the sidewalk, correct?
Sidewalk and
And
stairs.
stairs, okay. And if, say they wanted to go 6 feet, 8 feet, we'd have to apply
get
for
a
a variance. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, sounds good. We can do those things. I think 4 feet is reasonable. I think that's what they'll probably do, but I don't know what, I want to make sure that they have an option to do a variance if they needed to.
Yeah, the black dirt and all, and vegetation on that.
It's so much sand, he's gonna need black dirt to grow anything in there.
Yeah, that's what the soil there is, sand. It's a sandy zone.
Get it to grow, I don't know what.
So, and I can do, straw blankets and stuff too, there to help promote growth in that area, for sure.
Okay, this is Veronica. I'm prepared to make a motion if we're ready. Okay? No other questions or comments? No? Okay, this is Veronica. I make a motion that we approve the application with the following conditions. That number one, you need to restore the bluff impact zone and submit documentation to environmental services. And when we say restore grass, vegetation, everything that it's gonna take, that's gonna be approved by environmental services by October 1st, 2025.
Okay,
Okay. And number two, that you can have a lakeside deck, covered deck, not to exceed 12 by 24. And that the cabin itself cannot be enlarged. And then the findings of fact. Number one is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls. Yes, with the cabin meeting setbacks from the ordinary high water mark and lot lines and sidelines, conditions are being placed that any expansion to the cabin cannot be made in the bluff impact zone, and we are restricting it to one lakeside deck over the poured walkout. And again, the septic is going to remain as the trenches have yet to be installed, and the proposed location is suitable and does not harm the lake or creek, being over 200 plus feet from the ordinary high watermark setback. Number two, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes, a modest-sized cabin is a reasonable request. The lot is approximately 35 acres. Due to the topography, most of the lot is consumed by wetlands as the Wallingford Creek runs diagonally through the property, and a bluff runs across diagonally as well in that northwest corner of the property that is inside shoreland zoning. The 14 by 26 cabin is approximately 160 feet from being right outside of the shoreland zoning. Number three, is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners? I'm gonna say yes, and it's very similar to number two. Again, the lot is approximately 35 acres. Due to that topography, most of it's consumed by the wetlands from the creek, and with the bluffs running through the property, we're limited on your areas that we're still right inside shoreland. Number 4, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes, the locality consists of large lots averaging 40 acres or more with minimal development. And number 5, does the stated practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? We will adopt staff's number 5. And that's it. Do I
This
have,
is Tim, I'll second the motion.
okay, made a motion by myself to approve the application with the conditions stated and the findings of facts stated. Tim, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is myself, I vote aye. Your application has been approved. You will get a decision letter from Environmental Services with the next items that you need to do. There's going to be permitting and such that will need to take place.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, variance application 24-V-24 by Nicholas Stenberg and Keith, I'm not sure how to say the last name, Lapinoia. Part of Government Lot 1, Section 5, Township 140, Range 34, Henrietta Township on Ingram Lake, a natural environment lake. Parcel 13.05.00800. Applicants are requesting a variance from Section 1003 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance and Section 4, Subdivision A1, A2 of the Subdivision Ordinance for a proposed boundary line adjustment that will result in a non-conforming lot becoming more non-conforming. Do we have an applicant or authorized agent or anyone to present the application? Okay, it does not appear that we have the applicant at this time. Once again, we can go ahead and go forward with the application if we'd like, unless we have questions for the applicant and we need to table. Please let me know your concerns.
I'm okay.
You're okay with moving forward?
Did we have any outstanding violations here?
The very old septic violation, 1997, was on that property. That's correct? Yep. And it has not been, it is still non-compliant.
This is Mike. Eric, if we go forward, and if we were to approve this, they would need to correct those violations prior to this being completed, correct?
Okay. All right, so then are we in agreement to go ahead and move forward? Okay.
I'm okay.
Okay, all right, so then moving forward. I'll just, for the record, the request is to adjust the boundary line between two non-conforming lots in order to get the neighboring property's septic entirely on the neighbor's property and to clean up the shared boundary line description. Because the applicant's property is non-conforming in regard to buildable area due to its lack of depth and the ordinary high watermark and road right-of-way setbacks of 150 feet and 50 feet respectively overlapping on much of the lot, a variance is required because the subdivision ordinance only allows boundary line adjustments when a non-conforming lot becomes conforming in one or more ways and the conforming lot remains conforming after a boundary line adjustment. We understand that, although we also want to have that septic all on the other owner's property, so. I'm going to go ahead and open for the record public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close public comment.
This is Ken, just for clarification. The issue is that the remaining parcel becomes more non-conforming. And even though it's 11-some acres, it's now non-conforming just because of all the setbacks and buildable area and so on, and that's the whole thing. So we're taking, what, 2/10 of an acre away from 11 acres to do it, so, okay.
And this is Veronica speaking, as Mike asked earlier about the septic, whether we place a condition on it or not, the violation must be brought into compliance before the subdivision application can be completed. So that will be cleaned up right away anyhow. I was going to ask if a permit was applied for yet. Do we have any information if there's been a permit for that holding tank?
Let me check. We have a design on file, but not a permit yet.
All right. The only other thing I wanted to comment for the record was that Henrietta Township has already given their approval. Do we have any questions or concerns other than the violation? I think the changes are necessary for the neighboring property.
Did I just say we don't have to put a condition on for the septic because that'll be, that automatically handled? Okay,
Yeah, exactly, you don't have to.
okay.
This is Mike, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
This is Mike, I make the motion that we approve the application and accept the staff's findings of fact.
This is Ken, I'll second.
Okay, Mike made a motion to approve the application, accept the staff's findings of fact, seconded by Ken. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye. Okay, next item on the agenda. Variance application 25-B-24 by James and Emily Bringle, part of Government Lot 4, Section 7, Township 144, Range 35, Lake Hattie Township on Big LaSalle Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 18.07.00100. The applicants are requesting a variance from sections 502.2, 702, and 902.1 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a lakeward and overall expansion of a non-conforming dwelling located in the shore impact zone and related grading in the shore impact zone and a steep slope that exceeds permittable volume. Okay, go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
James Bringle, 4739 Pondview Drive.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bringle. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about your request.
So we have an existing cabin that was built in 1950, has never been altered in any way. We're looking to put on a new cabin in the existing location and increase the size.
And during the lot view, you mentioned to us and you showed us some of the excavation that you were proposing to do. And your reasoning was the excavation in that area to retain and enlarge in that area so that you wouldn't have to take so much of the bluff and excavate so much away. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you mentioned like less than 6 feet, 4 to 6 feet in there?
Yeah, 6 feet into the hill at the south corner.
Okay.
And then it would taper as I go towards the north.
And during our lot views, you mentioned that this property had been in your family for like 75 years. It appears it was built in 1950, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I had a question on here, will the power line remain in the same place? During lot views, you mentioned it was going to be a buried power line.
Correct. Clearwater Polk is scheduled to be out within the next few weeks to bury the line.
Ken, your covered deck, is that enclosed, or is it just a
Screen, it would be a screened porch,
screen porch?
yes. So it would just be a roof over a deck area and then just screened in.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions or comments before I open for public comment? Okay, at this time then, I will open for public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. Well, this is Veronica speaking. During the lot views, I also made special attention to note the neighboring properties to see what they had, what was similar at the same distance. There seems to be about 3 or 4 properties in that same area that have the same situation because that bluff runs all the way down the whole lake there. And the similar houses were allowed to expand by variance to the same similar request that the applicant is. I even noted the height on the neighboring property as well. I agree that expanding is necessary with this structure being as old as it is and it needs updated. I think if we made the applicant go further from the setback, then that would be more detrimental to the bluff. I think the applicant is showing, trying to take the least amount of the bluff as possible.
Yeah, this is Ken. I think our observation was that there literally was no alternative building site, or maybe 600 feet away, but just absolutely no. And the current cabin has no well or septic system. So the desire to have a little more convenience seems very reasonable.
And during lot view, I also noted that there was still good vegetative screening on the, I guess if you're facing the lake, I would say the right-hand side, there was pretty good screening. I visited with you about if there was a neighboring property, and you said there was no other residential there, but it was just nothing but wooded area, and so there's a lot of screening available as well.
And we kept the shoreline intact with all the natural vegetation. We don't mow that shoreline at all.
Yeah, that's the one next door we looked at,
Yeah.
built up.
And even though your property is 18+ acres, there's just really no way to meet that setback, then you'd have to really remove an access path to get to it with all that bluff. So I think this is the best suitable place, again, like the neighboring properties. You mentioned, so this is going to be still it's obviously not going to be a year-round residence then?
That is correct.
Going to be summer only with the holding tanks and such?
Correct.
Okay. Will your new structure have gutters? I mean, you're pretty close with your setback being 27.5 on that corner.
At this point, I hadn't thought about that, but I would say yes. we can add gutters.
Do we have a picture of the type of cabin that you're building? I mean, I know we have this,
This
yeah,
section,
this side here, this profile here. I was trying to see. The part that's going to be facing the lake, that picture there, is that gonna be, okay, so yeah, so gutters could be placed on those
yeah. And I,
sides.
because of the height, I turned the roof towards the lake so that it wouldn't appear to have this tall height to it. Because I just, being that there was gonna be that close, I didn't wanna have this huge wall up against the lake. And that's what part of the design is, to eliminate the height.
This is Mike. Right now, at least part of the area you were not mowing. Do you know how far back that distance would be that you're not mowing next to the lake?
You mean like where the hill starts
Well,
and,
between the lake and the cabin and the proposed cabin, will there be a no-mow zone in between there?
right now, we do mow that area, it's all grass right now, except for the first, like, I think it's 3 or 4 feet at the shore. But yeah, that's just grass now.
Would you be opposed to establishing, 10 or 15 foot no-mow zone is based on how close that is, and there is going to be, runoff from the roof, whether it's guttered or not, and how that guttering is directed, and my hope would be that portion of the shoreline have a larger no-mow area where you're directing any of the roof runoff.
Yeah. So Eric had a good picture there
Yeah,
to go by, if we go back to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, go back. Looks like there's kind of a berm with vegetation on it. Is that what I?
Past it.
Yeah,
Right there.
there.
That's the part we're talking about not mowing.
oh, keeping that clear?
Keeping that very much like it is now.
Yeah,
Right.
that was our intent, yes.
Because that was part of, that I was discussing as far as
Like
that
your
goes.
proposal is that the condition be that be retained.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the way it is now, and that's the way we plan to keep it that way.
This is Tim. So when you're excavating the backside of that, you're removing that old wall?
Correct. That wall is deteriorating, it's, a lot of the rocks have fallen off.
And your main reason for doing that is to exchange the type of material that's in there to be more permeable.
Yes, and the back side of the cabin wall will be a retaining wall. So that'll be what's going to, it's gonna be a retaining wall for the back side of the cabin. And then that area behind the cabin, we're looking at excavating the 6 feet so that we can get the right material in there so that it is gonna be able to drain properly.
And you're elevating the cabin a little bit, if I recall.
Yes. To create.
With that hill, I understand your point there, but with the hill behind you, it's gonna go around the building before it ponds and goes through that dirt. You've got a big hill behind you. It's
Yeah,
just gonna come
it
this-
basically does
And if all
that.
the ground is frozen there and it melts in the spring, it's just
Yep.
gonna go around. So I'm looking for any other reason why you need to take the hill out.
Oh, leave it in place, well, I guess the only reason was to just create it properly so that it's creating a swale in the back behind the cabin, so we're not having.
But the swale is gonna be determined on how high you're gonna put that waterproof wall on your house.
Correct,
If you put that up, you'll be able to build the swale back to the hill.
correct. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Without excavating that whole area, just leave it and then create
And then
the
fill
swale
up
as
that
required. Yeah, I didn't know if that's the way it would be done, but that makes some sense to me.
If you needed to get in there with equipment or something, I'd understand it, but if it's just for the material, I don't see the need for removing it.
No,
Wouldn't you like that fill to be as permeable as possible? So that any surface water can drain away? And I don't know if what's there is that, I mean, would you fill that with a gravel, sand kind of thing that would be more permeable than what's on the hillside, or not?
That was my thought when we were looking at this. But we can definitely minimize the amount that's being, I show an entire all the way down to the base of the slab.
That wall is in really good shape that's holding that hill right there right now.
right, and if you minimize, in my mind, if you minimize excavation, there's still going to be somewhat of an area behind that on the hillside where you can put the materials in, swale it and stuff, where you'll accomplish, I think, exactly what you want, which is good, but with less disturbance of that bluff itself. I think that's what Tim is saying, and I'm in agreement with that.
So this is Veronica speaking. You are under the impression from the lot views and the application here that the structure can be built without any excavation and retaining that current retaining wall and then adding the other one right in front of it, or?
Yeah, and this one I see here, it shows his wall is 1 foot 6 inches from that.
Correct. That's at the north end of of the existing cabin. So on the south end of the cabin, the corner would be up against that retaining wall. So yeah, I was pulling it out so I have less excavation of that hill. That's why I turned the cabin slightly towards the lake on the north end, just so that I wasn't excavating as much into that hill. I wanted to minimize that as much as possible.
How much quantity of dirt actually has to be moved to,
I had a section
Get
through,
that.
I had the excavation.
$60 yards? Is that what I see on this? That
Yeah, I
doesn't
have-
seem like a lot.
Red area is excavation, and then if you scroll through, I have the, right here. So this is the area A, which is the back of the hill. So 2 feet at the front, and then 4 feet high, and then the 6 feet back. So that's 47 yards.
Yeah. I don't have an opinion one or the other. It doesn't seem like a lot of excavation.
Okay.
I guess, if we go with plans and whoever is doing this work for you, you're obviously very conscientious of what's going on here, is that you definitely don't exceed that, but if it's possible to minimize it, I would certainly think that would be the best.
I agree.
If you excavate that, would you use that as the fill for raising the house?
Possibly, yes. Depending on what the soil is. I don't know, I've not dug into that at all, but it's possible.
Quantities are about the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you don't have to haul anything in.
Right. That's my hope, that I wouldn't have to.
This is Veronica. Do we have any other questions or comments? At this time, it appears that we for sure have the one possible condition that we already discussed, that the vegetative buffer in the bluff impact zone as seen in your application must remain that no mow area. Do you want specific dimensions on it?
No, just what's there. Gutters would be the,
And the gutters. Okay. Gutters installed. Okay, any other possible conditions, or are we ready for a motion? Okay, I'm prepared for a motion if we're ready. Okay, this is Veronica. I make a motion that we accept and approve the application as specific, or as site plan, and with the two conditions. The vegetative buffer in the bluff impact zone as seen in the application must remain the no mow, and gutters installed to direct stormwater away from the lake. And I have some findings of facts.
Could you put a condition that it is built to plan as submitted?
Yep, modifying that condition as built specifically to
drawing submitted with the
site
application.
plan. Yep,
Okay.
okay, I got that in place. Okay, number one is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls. The property is 18.2 acres, with most of it covered by the bluffs. The area suitable to meet setbacks is 600 plus feet from the lake and would require extensive access paths, so a variance is necessary to rebuild near the current location is in harmony. Number two is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by official control. Yes, replacing the 1950s structure with the screen porch and deck is a reasonable request. The applicant is utilizing much of the current space and excavating the least amounts of the bluff for the proposed structure, keeping it in the current location rather than a large excavation of the bluff to increase the ordinary high watermark setbacks. Number three is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners. Yes, the current cabin was built prior to the ordinance at an ordinary high watermark setback that is now non-conforming. The cabin also sits in the toe of a bluff, and the ordinance requires a variance for any addition. And also, the neighboring properties had a variance very similar. Number four, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? That is the yes, sorry, that is where the neighboring properties had similar variances. The locality consists of residential structures with setback difficulties due to the steep bluff. And we will adopt number five.
this is Mike, I'll second the motion.
Okay, I made a motion by myself to approve the application as presented per site plans with the two conditions mentioned and the I created the findings of facts with the adopting the staff's number 5. And Mike seconded the application. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye. Okay, your application was approved. You'll get a decision letter from Environmental Services with the conditions that we spoke about, and they will also tell you how to do your permits and next steps.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is variance application 26V-24 by Patty Peterson, Lot 8, Block 2, Spider Island, Section 27, Township 141, Range 33, Mantrap Township, on Spider Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 20.45.01300. The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance from Section 902 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance to exceed the permittable volume of material that can be moved into a steep slope. Do we have the applicant?
It's 26V24, I think you said 24.
Did I say 20?
I think you said 24, but it's
Oh.
26.
For correction, make sure we're doing 26V24. All right. Thank you. Shannon, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Shannon Henriksen, owner of Touch of Eden Landscaping, and I'm the authorized agent for Patty Peterson. My address is 1604 Commerce Avenue, South Park Rapids, Minnesota.
Thank you, Shannon. Go ahead and please just give us an overview of what the plan is here for this application.
Yeah, I was called in to this project back in August of last year of 2023. At that time, ICF foundation was put in, and I was asked to come up with a estimate to retain the amount of fill that was on the northwest corner of the house that was being built. And so during that time, I provided estimates and got the go-ahead this spring. I just wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up, so I contacted Aaron Anderson to do a site eval to make sure that the setbacks were where they were marked, and we found out that they weren't, that there was a violation, so that's why I'm doing the after-the-fact variance to get a retaining wall system to retain the amount of fill there. Actually, we got to haul out some fill.
Okay, this is Veronica speaking. For the record, also, I wanted to submit some more information. 3 ordinance violations on the property came to the department's attention in March of this year. A notice of violation letter was sent on March 28th, 2024 concerning them. The existing dwelling was enlarged without obtaining a land use permit and an accompanying septic permit for the needed septic expansion, and the work was done in a steep slope with the amount of material being moved exceeding the permittable volume. And just wanted to say that the applicants obtained those required after-the-fact land use and septic permits on April 26, 2024, and submitted a septic abandonment form for the existing tank that was to be abandoned and replaced with a new 2022-50 3-compartment tank. Just needed those on there for the record. So we're strictly dealing only with now the after-the-fact for this fill. Do we have any questions from the members?
This is Mike. Are there plans, other than the terraces themselves that are gonna be vegetated, the portions of the slope that aren't terraced to be revegetated?
Yeah, she hasn't hired me for that yet, but I will definitely, I think I will recommend that all gets vegetated. That was gonna be like a phase 2 landscaping plan, as soon as the house was built, to do landscaping around the rest of the building. And most of the area beyond that fill pile is natural duff layer with just pine needles, but all the disturbed areas, I think we should put into vegetative ground cover of some sort. It's pretty shady back there, so I would be pushing for that.
I guess, for my comfort level, I think I would make that a condition of approving this variance.
And Mike, can you repeat that possible condition would be for the vegetative area to be where?
All disturbed areas be revegetated.
Okay, thank you.
Based on the drawings, I don't think it'll be a huge amount, but
Is all of the terracing still outside the 100-foot setback?
I believe so. If anything, that retaining wall number 1 would be almost right on that line, that setback line. But that's why I had to kind of come up with a design that's a little more narrow with the retaining walls so that they stay within that, where that 100-foot setback flag was.
Do we have any other questions at this time? If not, I'm going to open for public comment. All right, I'm going to open for public comment. Seeing no public comment, I will close the public comment. I wanted to also note on there that we did receive zoning approval from Mantrap Township. So Eric, with the violation letter, septic permits, as mentioned, have been obtained. And they have 1 year to install those, is that correct? Okay. And Shannon, you mentioned that you would remove the excess material that was not used. You
Yep.
would take it off-site?
Yes, we'd haul it out.
Okay. Well, this is Veronica speaking. We definitely, while we were out there, saw that there's a need for this project to have a retaining wall, mainly for the house's integrity, to be there also. So I am in favor of the application. I agree with Mike's condition that all disturbed areas be vegetated. I think for just record's sake, it wouldn't hurt to place the second condition that all excess material be removed off-site, even though I know Shannon had mentioned it, but we'll just have it for documentation purposes. During lot views, Shannon and I asked you if this was a project that what the duration would take, or if this project could be done this year, and you had mentioned yes, and that's still the case, correct?
Yes, we had all the materials ordered. We were ready to pull the trigger, and then when Aaron got the letter. So I anticipate this being completed by the middle of July. And I think that's what's kind of holding up the septic install too, because we have to get that built, and then I think the septic can get put, and that's kind of so yeah, I think we should be done by July 15th, unless we get more rains.
This is Veronica speaking. I'm just curious what the other members think. I know the violation letter said that the permits and stuff had to be pulled by a specific date, which was September 28th, 2024. And even though they have a year to install it, I am open to a condition that the septic must be installed by that deadline as well, just because it's after the fact.
Hold on, I'm trying to. to look up what the acreage is on this lot. Anybody know? Do you have that?
1.8,
Roughly 2 acres.
yeah, almost 2 acres, 1.84.
Okay, so it's size-wise, everything else is okay.
It's just in my opinion, with the after the fact stuff, you know, I think we're just gonna have to be a little bit more strict with these deadlines and not giving them the entire year. It's just my opinion.
This is Mike, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Eric, this is Veronica speaking for septic confirmation. The abandonment form, you won't receive it, or you've already received it? Will you receive it when the new one gets installed, or you get it right now?
I believe it's already of record. Yeah, we've got it on file. It doesn't, they come in varying degrees of completeness.
Okay. Is it completed to your satisfaction at this time then, or not quite?
I'd honestly have to take some time to look at it, so I,
Okay. Then this is Veronica speaking. I would just extend that all SSTS abandonment forms must be completely submitted by that same deadline. Do we have any other questions or comments?
No.
Anyone prepared for a motion, or I'm prepared for a motion if,
Go for it.
okay, this is Veronica. I make a motion to approve the after the fact application with the following conditions. The first one being the retaining wall project per site plan by Touch of Eden must be installed prior to September 28th, 2024, per the violation letter date. Number 2, all disturbed areas be vegetated. Number 3, all excess materials be removed off-site. Condition number 4, the septic must be installed again by September 28th, 2024. And the septic abandonment forms must be submitted in its entirety to Environmental Services, again by the violation date, September 28th, 2024. And I have findings of facts that I can go through. Number 1, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls? Yes, the variance will resolve the steep slope excavation violations, stabilize the steep slope, and increase the integrity of the enlarged structure. Number 2, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes, enlarging the current structure, which itself meets the setback requirements, is reasonable. Therefore, stabilizing the steep slope with the proposed 4-tier retaining wall on the northwest corner is essential and reasonable. Placing conditions that the retaining wall be installed within a timely manner to stabilize the area and aid in maintaining the structure's integrity. Number 3 is the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners. Yes, due to the steep slope, a retaining wall is needed to stabilize the enlarged structure, as the structure meets the 100-foot ordinary high water mark setback. And I will adopt staff's 4 and number 5.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, this is Veronica. I made the motion to approve the application with the conditions that I stated and the findings of facts 1 through 3, adopting staffs 4 and 5. Ken seconded the motion. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
Can I vote aye?
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is variance application 27-V-24 by Benjamin and Shannon Frowenholtz. Parts of Government Lot 8, Section 18, Township 142, Range 35, Clover Township on Little Mantrap Lake, Recreational Development Lake. Parcel 05.18.01900. Applicants are requesting a variance from Section 902.1 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for grading in a steep slope that exceeds the permittable volume. And it appears we have the authorized agent, Lance, is that
Yes,
correct? Okay,
yep.
Lance, can you please give your name and address for the record?
Lance Schilling with Schilling Landscaping, 22591 County 118 LaPorte.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schilling. Can you please just describe what the applicant's request is?
What they're requesting is to remove existing wood retaining walls, to replace them in a slightly different manner, not tiered, but a single phase wall on the front, and then the other, there's obviously, 4 separate walls that we're replacing, but replacing the existing wood with the concrete structure, concrete block. Included in that is better access with the stairs going up to the upper deck off of the lower level there, as well as another set of stairs coming from the walkout basement down to the lower level, more direct route to the lake. Also included that is a increase in patio area underneath the existing deck, tying those 2 stairwells to one another.
All right, thank you. And just for the record, I know during the lot view, I asked you the width of those staircases, and you said 4 on both, because I did not see the width on the bottom set there.
Yes, 4 foot on both
Okay, 'cause-
stairwells.
Perfect. Okay, does anyone have any questions at this time for the applicant?
Not me.
Not at this time. Okay, and just for the record, I'd just like to state that the house on this lot was constructed in 1995 and is located in a steep slope. As mentioned, the existing wooden retaining walls from when the house was built are now in need of replacement, so the applicants want to install this with some steps and improve that access. The cumulative amount of material to be moved with these projects exceeds that permittable threshold of 15 cubic yards. And so, during the lot views,
I think it, and worth noting that all this activity is 180 feet from the lake.
yes.
So there's absolutely no impact to the lake.
Correct, that is correct. It's mainly just, it exceeds that permittable volume. I know you're not the applicant, but during the lot views, there were a couple different structures on the property that I was questioning. You may or may not have any information on these two possible violations. There's that lakeside platform. You can see it from looking at the deck.
I don't know.
Have any
I have no
information on that?
information on that at all. Nope, sorry.
That's okay. There was also a privy, as you're going down. It was on that side of the property, kind of right there in the woods, that I wanted to question.
Also, I don't know about, sorry.
It's okay. At this time, if there are no other questions for the record, I'm going to open for public comment. And seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. And this is Veronica. I'm in agreement with the application. I think it does obviously need to have need of replacement, as we're seeing some signs that it's not holding up. We do also have Clover Township approval. I guess the only thing I would maybe want to put on there as far as a condition, that the two violations need to be addressed. The platform with the grill that's close to the lake and the privy, before they can start construction, has to be clarified with the environmental services. The platform itself might meet that water-oriented, that recreational water-oriented platform, and only need an after-the-fact permit. The privy might have different things.
This is Mike. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
This is Mike, I'll make the motion that we approve this with the following conditions: that the potential violations of the plant form and privy be addressed and resolved prior to this permit being issued, and accept the staff's findings of fact.
Okay, this is Veronica. I second the motion. Mike made a motion to approve the application with the condition that the violations need to be addressed, and then adopting the staff's findings of fact, seconded by myself. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica. I vote aye. Okay, the application was approved. The applicants will be receiving, and you as well will be receiving that decision letter with the next steps.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank
Thank you.
Variance application 28-B-24 by Starlight Bay Resort LLC, part of Government Lot 6, Section 12, and part of the northwest quarter of Government Lot 1, Section 13, Township 140, Range 33, Nevis Township on 8th Crow Wing Lake, a recreational development lake, parcels 21.12.01310 and 21.13.00400. Applicants are requesting Part 1, an after-the-fact variance from sections 502.2 and 701 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for an enlargement of a deck on a structure devoted to a non-conforming use that does not meet the 50-foot road right-of-way setback. And Part 2, a variance from section 502.2 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance for a proposed deck that will not meet the 50-foot road right-of-way setback. And we have the applicant here. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Dale Schroeder, 27155, County 33, Nevis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Can you go ahead and give us your request for this application?
Well, I was told I was long-winded, so I had her type this out. Our main concern was the safety of our customers. We could no longer do adequate repairs to keep them safe while they were used the previous deck. We had a small window of time that the cabin was open, so we took the opportunity to make it safe. We also apologized that we went slightly bigger than the original deck as we squared off the new deck with the stairs instead of bringing it out to the far side where the ramp came out before as the previous deck. Do you want me to read for the new deck as well, or just the one for the after the fact? You want to work on one and then work on the other one, or?
I think you can do both.
Okay. We are requesting a deck on our personal home because as property owners of lakeshore property, having a deck on your lake home is the norm. The house had a deck that the previous owners had removed and did not replace. They used dock sections and added sand in areas probably without a permit, bringing in more fill. We would like to actually just put a deck back in that would be a smaller footprint than the previous deck that was there when they removed it.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, while you're thinking, with very limited people in the audience, I'm gonna go ahead and
Are we
open.
gonna handle both these together or do them independent? Just the.
I think we,
Huh?
I think we can most likely handle them together.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll
Okay.
just make sure.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and open for public comment. And seeing there's no public comment, I will close public comment.
This is Mike. I find both of these reasonable on site when we looked at it. With the right-of-way, what it is, it's limited space there. And the only real issue is after the fact because they took the opportunity to do the work when it was open, so. But I'm okay with this as it's presented.
I would add that the normal setback that I think is 50 feet is more intended for a major highway at high speeds. The speed limit on this road is 30s, so it's more typical of a township road where it's 20-foot setback. So I think it makes sense.
And this is Veronica, I agree as well. For some more supporting information, the deck on cabin 11 is slightly larger and toward the right-of-way than the prior deck. It is still reasonably sized and provides safety and aesthetic upgrade from the prior deck. As far as the new one, And I do want to note, though, in the future, so we can avoid the after the facts, you
I
are
was-
17 minutes from environmental services. I did the
Well, when
math,
we-
and just wait, let me speak, please.
Okay.
You can always make a phone call
Yes.
if you don't have time, just so that we can avoid doing this. And I appreciate you getting going the proper route for the second one. I do understand the safety. We
Well,
don't.
my biggest thing was we were told that, like, kind of like the fence when I was talking to you about that, we were told as long as we used footprint, it was fine.
Yep.
We did end up going slightly larger when we were building. My builder was there. I had left. He went over the overhang by the 2 feet from where the foundation was, where those legs are sitting. So that's where the extra 2 feet came from. Otherwise, as far as we were concerned, the ramp is null and void without the deck. The deck is null and void without the ramp. So one worked together. We thought we were working within footprint until I showed up and he brought it out to meet the stairs.
Right, yep. And so again, if there's
We try
ever
to
like,
stay
I
within-
don't know, you have any
It wasn't
questions
an I don't
in
know.
doubt.
That's why my biggest thing is I apologize.
Right, yep. So just in the
Yep.
future, when it comes to any alterations or improvements, see what your options are prior
Will do.
to.
I love pulling permits. I normally pull a lot of them. If you guys
were
cannot
gonna
tell,
bring our
since we took
binder in, but
over,
I'm
there
sure
is
Eric-
quite a few on our record.
And the other thing I wanted to address, as I mentioned during the lot views.
Yes.
Because your stairs there are larger than 4 feet was what is.
We had to add 3 feet is what I
Right,
think
you
what
had
we
to
were
add
planning
that
on.
2.9
Yes.
in there. So the calculations are now 42.9 for that instead
Because the
of.
stairs are going 12 feet versus just 4 feet.
Just wanted to put that on the record as well, that anyone that makes the motion needs to be sure to put that information in there. That it's not just the site plan with 4-foot stairs. Anybody have any other questions or comments, or is prepared to make a motion?
This is Mike. I'll make the motion that we approve and accept the staff findings of fact and note as Veronica stated, that the stairs were built slightly larger than planned. They're 6 feet.
Yeah, just larger than what the ordinance allows. They're 12 feet wide instead of 4.
So, just so that's included in it, but,
Perfect. Does anyone have a second?
This is Tim, I'll second this motion.
Okay, Mike made a motion to approve Part 1 and Part 2 of the application and adopt the staff's findings of facts with the notation about the staircase on the application. Seconded by Tim. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye. The applications have been approved. You will be receiving a decision letter from Environmental Services with the, the next steps in providing those, getting those permits. So,
Come in and
okay?
get, yep.
Yep,
Thank
thank you
you
so
very
much.
much.
Give them a couple days.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda was variance application 29-V-24 by Lori Coley. That application on Thursday during our lot views was withdrawn last week, so we did not partake in the lot view. However, it has been to our, we had received new information and notification that the applicant now has decided to go ahead and retain the application, and it will be placed next month on the July meeting.
So we're not gonna act on it.
So retain your copy because it will be on next month's meeting. And if there are any changes, Environmental Services Office will be taking care of that and handling that in whatever ways necessary. And so the last item,
Veronica, is there a chance we could take a 5-minute break since this will be a long discussion, I
sure,
think?
absolutely. We are going to take a 5-minute pause before I
Do
start
we
that.
need to officially table that or just let it go?
Nope, it was withdrawn.
It was withdrawn and then replaced, but Eric can give us guidance.
Yeah, it was withdrawn last Thursday morning, and then this morning they asked to be able to resubmit it, which they did, and then that started today being the new application date.
Okay. All right, so we are going to take a 5-minute break before the last item on the agenda.
You gotta get the key, Ken.
Yep, he's getting it out for you. So when Eric tells me we're back on.
Yep.
All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will get back on here. So the last item on the agenda is variance application 30-V-24 by Stephen Holbert, part of Government Lot 2, Section 28, Township 140, Range 34, Henrietta Township on Long Lake, a recreational development lake, parcel 13.28.00600. Applicant is requesting a variance from Article B and Sections 502, 501.2, 1001, 1003, and 1005 of the Shoreland Management Ordinance and Section 4, Subdivision A1C of the Subdivision Ordinance to create a riparian lot that doesn't comply with the 150-foot minimum lot width requirement at the ordinary high water mark or at the 100-foot ordinary high watermark structure setback, and the request a variance from the 33-foot minimum width ingress and egress easement across access requirement. So we have the applicant here and their authorized agent. So if you could please both state your names and addresses for the record, and then we will proceed with the request.
I'm Sarah Swanson, and I'm from Thomas & Swanson and Zahn Law Office, 120 North Main Avenue.
Thank you, Sarah. And
I'm Steve Halbert. Well, do you want my home or do you want where the place here?
your home address is fine.
Home address?
Yeah, because I've got your other one here.
Okay, 7010 52nd Avenue South, Horace, Horiace, North Dakota.
Perfect, thank you. And you can go ahead with your request, please.
Okay, I'll start. And I see, of course, Eric has laid out in his staff report essentially the nature of the request. I would add just a couple of pieces of information to add to that. Information that's been updated since I believe he was able to do that staff report. The kind of main issues that are part of the request tonight are the 20-foot easement, the existing easement. When the Hulberts bought the property, this private road has always been the only access to the property. It was just memorialized earlier this winter. At that time, it was just memorialized as it had always been and as it had been granted to the neighbors. The new owners of the underlying ground there, we requested that they would widen the easement to 33 feet, but were opposed to doing so. We're not really sure why. They're not using that land, but Steve contacted them a couple of times and they just were not willing to oblige that. We also looked at cartway options, but the cartway statute is kind of specific. And in this case, it's not completely clear that this property, because it's 4 acres and not 5 acres, if it would even qualify for a cartway. So the access kind of is what it is. And so that's the reason we're asking for the variance for from the 33-foot easement requirement for a subdivision. Moving to the subdivision, as you can see, they're proposing or requesting to be able to divide their existing lot into 2 lots, a riparian tract and a non-riparian tract. They are not proposing to make any changes to the riparian lot. That will simply stay as is. The changes that they are hoping to be able to make are to the non-riparian lot. The non-riparian lot meets the width requirements, and there's no issues there that I am aware of. The riparian lot, since we had this survey properly revised, There is no issue with the width at the ordinary high water mark. It is now over 150 feet at the ordinary high water mark. It's approximately 142 or 143 feet at the 100-foot setback. And so that is the issue or the request, the variance request regarding the riparian lot. And we had laid this out in our application, but just to reiterate it without belaboring the point, much of the issues, or the issue with the width at the structure setback really is created by just sort of the unique peninsula nature of this lot itself. It's not something, of course, that was created or can be changed or remedied by the Hulberts. And I just want to also point out no changes being made to the riparian lot, and the existing dwelling, all of the existing buildings are much farther back than the 100-foot setback. The other thing that came up, I believe, when we were out at the property was the use of a portion of an existing garage for sleeping quarters. And since that came up, I'm assuming there would be questions about it. The whole idea of wanting to build this guest cabin, or I guess it would be the main dwelling on the new proposed non-riparian lot, is so that there would be adequate sleeping quarters, bathroom facilities, and that garage can be returned just to garage use. So if you have other questions about that, certainly you can let us know. The other thing that Eric had requested that was in his staff report was showing that the septic system, the drain field for the septic system that currently exists to service the dwelling and the guest cabin, that was marked so that it could be verified that it meets the 10-foot setback lot, new proposed lot line requirement. So Steve verified that with Don Umthen, who had done the other septic site reports and had also inspected this particular septic system approximately 15 years ago. So without reiterating the other notes that I had provided in the application about the nature of the neighborhood, the drainage, and all of the improvements that they're hoping to be able to make, all being 350 feet or more farther back from the lake shore. They're hoping to just simply sort of be able to build this additional dwelling so that they can use the property for their family as they always have been. This won't be sold. There won't be any additional traffic than the people already using the property.
Okay, this is Veronica. Thank you, Sarah, for that information. At this time, if any members have any questions, please feel free to do so.
I have.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Well, I have a couple, three to start, just for clarification. You said the cartway, you kind of gave up on it. Who owns lot 23? Because that's where your cartway would come across, right?
No, lot 23 is owned by, I believe their name is 4MS Enterprises.
Yeah.
The cartway would come across the larger tract where the easement is currently located.
Oh, okay.
And that property is owned by Akeson, some kind of entity also.
Okay. So there's no option for a cartway, is what you're saying?
The statute is slightly ambiguous.
Yeah, but could you do a variance to, who would you apply to, the township?
We'd have to apply to the township, and I did speak with Gary Korsgaden
Yeah.
Korsgaden about it,
Yeah.
and his response was no, that we would not be open to a cartway in this case because there is, there's language in the statute that says the lot that the cartway services needs to be over 5 acres in
Yeah.
size, and here their lot is 4 acres in size, so.
They're saying they won't bend on that. Okay.
No.
Eric, how do you measure the ordinary high water mark shoreline numbers? You say it meets the 150 feet. Do you follow the ordinary high water mark all around that thing, or do you draw a straight line? How do you do that?
Sure, the ordinance says you measure it from side lot line to side lot line where it intersects the ordinary high water mark. So you'd measure from this point by this iron over to here.
Okay, so you avoid all that other, okay.
And
So
it's an odd-
So that's the measurement you say qualifies it for the 150, and where do you measure the, the 150 feet for the setback?
That is at any point along this 100-foot setback line, you measure the shortest distance between side lot lines, and you have to be 150 feet minimum.
Okay.
All along this line, so the shortest distance that's the 142 to 143 that Sarah mentioned is from this point at this iron again over to here.
Okay. Okay, and so you're satisfied if those are adequate points that it meets both those requirements?
It does not meet the 150
Well,
at the 100-foot
plus or minus a
setback.
couple feet. Yeah, okay. See what else did I think that's what I had for Eric. I have other questions on what other people might.
Yep, well, this is Veronica speaking. Just for the record, since there's nobody in the audience, I'm just gonna open for public comments and then close for public comment, just to get through that.
I have a question for Eric. This is Tim. In the staff report, you said that the original riparian lot had a site eval on file. And I didn't see a map or anything of it, so I was wondering if you ever looked and seen if that alternate site would be in compliance with this new lot line subdividing the non-riparian from the riparian.
Let me see if I can find it.
Are you talking septic site?
Yes.
The alternate, correct.
For the,
Yes.
for the remainder lot you're talking about, Tim?
The riparian.
Yeah, remainder, okay, riparian. Remainder, I guess they talk about.
I see it on the survey, but I just, and we looked at the proposed non-riparian, and there's lots of room over there. I've seen a lot of room there. But I'm looking at this just thinking that if it was subdivided into 2 pieces, it might not always be family that owns these 2 pieces, and they might not be friendly enough to give each other septic sites.
If I recall, when they initially started this, the proposed subdivision line was just a straight line.
Okay.
Don Umphen wanted or needed kind of that jog over in order to have sufficient space for the additional septic site, or the alternate septic site. And I know that is on
For the
file.
for the remainder?
I believe so, yeah, for the riparian lot.
So
Is that right?
Where that little
Correct.
jog is on the line across?
I thought, and see, I don't see that path. I remember the path we walked around, and I was trying to visualize where it would be in there.
Back in the trees.
That's what on the screen is what we've got, but I have nothing to be able to verify
Go
that
with location at all.
where it is on the survey. Oh, there he's got it.
Right there.
Right
Oh,
there, yeah.
okay.
Yep, it is, that's why there was the jog back in the line, or
And
jog to the east.
Okay, so it was considered in there. You're not relying on the old one, I guess, huh?
That's right.
There aren't any issues with the old one, but in case something happened, they would have.
Yeah, he checked, we drained it, and then, the old one, and then he came out and.
I was talking about the old
Yeah.
alternate site, not the old system.
Well, the alternate site then is what
Yeah.
he said, well, the place we'd put it would be right over there.
Yeah, that's.
In the
that's
trees.
That system circa 70,
Yeah.
or, let's see.
And he marked those as though we were gonna have to
75?
do it, but we
Yeah,
don't.
that system's
50 years old.
So there was no alternates.
At the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, what's the minimum size of a non-riparian lot?
80,000 square feet.
What?
80,000.
80,000, okay. For a single dwelling. If it's a duplex dwelling, it has to be larger than that. Isn't that what the shore,
Just has to meet single-family minimum lot size.
why did I read that? I don't have that thing. That one I looked up, but if it were duplex, two homes, or a duplex building on it, they had to be 120,000, I thought.
If it was duplex, but that's a conjoined wall. You've got two units sharing a conjoined
Yeah.
wall.
I'm trying to get at what the intent is for building on that lot.
The new.
What does
or-
it qualify for? Does it qualify for a primary structure and a guest cabin? Could you build two primary homes on it? What could you build on that, tract one lot?
Primary house and a guest cottage. And that's what we have a septic design submitted.
I'm sorry, you said,
Primary house and a guest cottage, and
is
that's.
what, is all you could build on that lot?
Right.
And that's what's
So, if,
And-
proposed.
And, the young man that gave us the too late permit, what do you call it?
Aaron,
What?
or yeah, I think that was Aaron that you worked
Yeah,
with.
because he said that the only thing you could do on that would be a primary and one guest cabin. Well, you couldn't do any more than that, as far as habitation.
And this is Veronica speaking. I believe what Eric's trying to also visit with you about, Ken, is that their design shows that they're proposing to have a house and a guest cottage as far as the sizing. Is that correct?
That's what it looks like.
That's what it appears to be. So, do the applicants have plans to have a guest cottage on that second?
Someday, ultimately, his family keeps growing. That's why,
That's one of the
that's
purposes.
what's the
to-
problem.
Okay.
A family is,
I lost the discussion here. The proposal is for a house.
750.
That size is large enough to have a guest cottage septic tied into it if they ever desire in the future to build a guest cottage.
Okay. The platform that's there now,
well, that is for the house.
that's what?
That, the slab,
That's where you plan to build the house?
that's where you plan to build the house.
That drawing, that isn't the way the drawing shows it here too, right?
That septic design, you mean? That drawing, is that the drawing you're referencing?
You're just showing this, you show proposed house way over here.
That's right.
This is the slab that's already in place.
Yeah, this is the slab that's in place. That is a different structure.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the existing slab?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I got
This
it.
is, Mike, the applicant is aware that the guest cottage can only be 700 square feet, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we knew that 3 years ago. And that's
Okay.
what
It's-
derailed me,
The septic
us,
is for 8 bedrooms.
and that slab got
Be
poured
A home with 6 and
when it shouldn't have,
two or so,
because
yeah, okay.
it's a story. But it's designed, that actually is designed for 700 feet. but we would like it to be bigger because we need those bedrooms for the garage that has to
That has to be moved.
get emptied. And that's what we want to do, because we want the garage. We need it, that's why we built it there, so.
Okay, are there any other questions from the members for the applicants?
You gonna go public comment and then come back?
I
or-
did already.
Oh, well, then I got more questions.
Okay.
You have a second dock, down on the
Yes.
side. Is there a boat launching area there?
Now, there's a boat lot, it's no longer there. When we bought that land,
You don't launch any,
no, you can't launch a
okay.
child's toy there now. But I don't even think the concrete is still there. It was on the property to the north. It wasn't on our property.
Have you ever had the DNR permit that second dock?
Yeah.
And the size of your current dock?
Yeah?
Because your current dock seems excessively large, and the platforms seem excessively large for what I understand are the both state rules and/or guidelines of the DNR.
Yeah, I don't know. This, I have not discussed that with them.
Because when I looked at your large one out in front, looks like you have two platforms, so the one less larger than the 120 square feet that's allowed.
Well, it could be. It was there when we, 40 years ago, that boat down at the,
Are you talking about the dock, Ken?
Yes.
That's in the water?
Well, there's two of them.
Yeah.
My understanding, state rules, or DNR guidelines rules, you're allowed one dock for every 150 feet you have, and that the dock cannot exceed either 50 feet or 50% of your shoreline, which is whatever is less, and that the platform, any platform, not walking areas, but any platform has to be less than 120 square feet. And when I looked at, surveyed both of those, I would conjecture that they're not in compliance with state shoreline rules. That's not covered by the shoreline management ordinance, that's up to the DNR.
Okay.
But
well, they, all I can say is that, other than fix a board once in a while, they've been there since we bought the land in 1975. And they were there.
I just point that out.
And I don't know, we just took it over.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. I think Ken just wanted to make sure you were, maybe that issue
Well,
was
thank you. I
checked into. So even though it's not our area here.
never,
Okay, any other questions or comments? Anybody ready for,
And there is an easement across the new tract to get to the remainder lot. That's all, that paperwork is done,
Correct.
okay?
Well, it will be recorded if the subdivision is approved, if the
Now,
variance is approved.
one technocrat question. The tract one new deed, so to speak, talks about, a bit from the fiducial mark, for the government lot, it talks about, here it shows it, 0 degrees, 51 minutes, 31 seconds west. In the actual deed, it talks about it being 1 degree, 55 minutes, and 0 seconds. So the actual deed line numbers are not the ones that you are indicating the new line is.
Which line are you referring to?
Well, I'm reading from the recorded description. It says from government lot 2, that marker at the top, Thence on a record bearing of south 1 degree 55 minutes 0 seconds is the line that goes from the government lot down to your,
Northeast corner.
to the white spot, I guess. The 2.7 degrees go to the dark one. But when you describe the new lot, it says 0 degrees, 51 minutes, 33 seconds for that same distance. And I'm saying the original line is 1, the new line that portrays what this lot is a different line. I know it's a small amount, but this is the third version of the surveyor's thing.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that has to do with the newer Hubbard County bearing or coordinate system.
Possibly.
I believe I did ask Ron Carnell about that. And that was his explanation to me. The record description is older. I mean, like, these guys bought in 1975.
So you're telling me the whole new system for the universe, so to speak, has really altered the actual location of that government lot thing. So that would be the same?
Right, I don't believe it's altered the actual location on the ground.
Is now no longer.
Well-
Just using the Hubbard County coordinate system is what is required to be used for surveys now, and that differs. You get different bearings and distances using that as opposed to some of the old projections that were used with old historic surveys, so it's not uncommon to see slight differences.
You don't see that as a problem? I just thought, well, all right, we've been changing all the numbers, and then I said, well, this is what the original deed says, and now we got a new deed, and it's got a different number. And I'm saying, do we still have a surveying problem?
I don't believe we have a surveying problem because of that. I'm not a surveyor, but as it's been explained to me, the monuments are in the same place on the ground.
So I shouldn't be thinking about having a second surveyor
Oh,
duplicate
please.
this? Okay.
I don't believe that would be
Are you
necessary.
okay, Eric, with that? I mean, that's explainable?
That one is.
The original deed says this, and the new deed says something different. That's all.
There's another error in the proposed description for the riparian lot that I've mentioned to Sarah.
Okay.
Hey, can you tell us what the error is?
The call on the north boundary from the lake to the northeast corner uses a bearing that is not due east, as is the description of the north boundary line per the quiet title action 2 years ago.
I don't understand.
I could double check that because there have been a couple of different variations. I don't think I gave you the wrong description, but I may not have given you the last updated description from Ron. And I apologize, that would just be strictly a error on my part because I believe his second revision used an 89-degree bearing.
Accustomed to Ron not proofing his descriptions, so it doesn't surprise me that there might have been an oversight.
And that one would truly be considered an error. That north line should be at 0 degrees, minutes, seconds. It should be true east-west.
Straight east and west, right?
Or, I'm sorry, it should not be 0, it should be 90.
It depends on how they're doing it.
As
Yes.
opposed to 89.
Okay, this is Veronica speaking then, so we still have a couple.
Does that have any influence on the kind of numbers of ordinary high water marks, setbacks and things like that? What your error you picked up?
That's the point that I tried to make in my staff comments is hopefully this latest version is correct, but if you want my honest 2 cents, I would put more weight in another surveyor's work than I would this surveyor.
This is Mike, though, as far as the setback, we're talking minimal change, regardless if it's 1 degree off or not.
It's varied up to 16 to 19 feet based on the county surveyor's review of the changes that have happened to that north line
So
as shown
this
on the various
line
revisions.
pitches down a little bit.
So that's why at the lot view, I said, size it up as you visually see it, because we aren't gonna probably have full confidence in the survey.
If I may, I did provide to the county a survey that was done in 1964. That closely matches the final revisions here. And also, to the best of my judgment, matches, that true east-west line, which is what we used for our quiet title description.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? How do any of the members feel about obtaining a different survey? We have received 3 different surveys for this, or 3 revised surveys total, and now we've still got some discrepancies. Is that correct, if I'm thinking right, for this application?
I don't know that well, potentially there's an error in the description of the north boundary of the lake lot.
Right, and plus the one Ken found with the verbal description matching this.
But
I think that one has more to do with the bearing
Okay,
or the coordinate
and
change.
just this, okay.
I mean, if I brought it up more because I know they went through quiet title 2 years ago, and I would imagine Sarah feels the same. She would hate to see them get the title messed up by using the wrong
Yeah.
description of that north boundary.
correct, and we would be correcting. I mean, if I can say, in my opinion, it's a clerical error on the written description that Ron provided. We would simply change the bearing for the north line to match what he has drawn on the survey, to be true east-west.
I read Ron's last and final to us, and I think to you, explanation, admitting that he used wrong on the first 2. I think he kinda got it, from what I read there, that he was confused on the northeast pin because it had been damaged and by a big mower back a few years, and it was by the people that did it. They picked it up and put it where they thought it came from. And it wasn't right. And when Ron his first survey, he didn't measure down according to well, it's 171 point something feet legally from that northeast corner of the road, or the main, or, and I don't know what you call that, it's the
Government corner.
yeah. But the first one he did, the one they moved, wasn't 171 feet, it was 160 some feet. So they had put it in the wrong place.
And he does have that shown on here.
Oh, did he? Yeah, okay, yeah. And so that was the first big mistake. That's why, and then he didn't do a couple other things, as you showed me. Well, okay. But Sarah went with him when he did the final survey, and he used the proper measurement, or the proper measurement from that northeast corner. And that's why that changed, and he explained that. So we had confidence in that. Okay, now we have the correct pin, and that's the black one, I think. That got resurveyed officially according to the property to the north. And so I thought that's what would help you see
This be
that he
It's a
got
straight
that.
east-west line from that point.
Because what that did is it made it line up with the found pin down at the lake. So I've got perfect confidence in that because when we bought that, the owners of the lot, the Camp Colonel, north of us, he was trying to sell that at the time. And he'd sold it, and they were older, and the people reneged on the deal, and he had to come back. And when we bought it, it was the era when he was running it again, and he was concerned about this. So he showed me.
Go ahead.
Quit?
No.
He showed me visibly the pins.
Well, and I'm glad you and I don't mean to interrupt you, I appreciate you giving us this information. However, paper documentation, surveys are what we really need to go by as well. And personally, myself, we've had multiple discrepancies. We're still at discrepancies. We don't have exact information in front of us. At this time, I am agreeing with the staff's report that we table this. If they're allowed, depending on the date this was received, if we table it, will they meet that 60-day criteria for the subdivision if we table it to next month? To give them time to have a different surveyor provide an accurate?
Let me check a second. I would think we'd still,
Fall into the proper thing. Just because there's lots of questionable and not exact information, I just think that would be the best situation at this time, would be to table the application to give the applicants time to have another surveyor verify the survey, what we have in front of us, and make sure everything is proper. You guys can give me your feelings.
Does that affect the subdivision going forward?
Yeah.
That is the residual issue we have, plus the 20-foot easement. All the other things are kosher, right? Unless that line turns out to be something that alters
It could be
them.
16 or 19 feet off.
Yeah.
But can I just offer one bit of explanation, and you can choose to take it or not, but we quieted title using the original description that Hulberts were conveyed, and that is at the straight east-west north boundary line.
Okay.
Just to be totally honest, I don't know why Ron would have varied when he created the subdivision legal description, and he put it at 88 degrees some minutes and seconds.
Yeah.
I can guess why he did that because of, how those pins that Steve was mentioning had been moved over time. I regret that I didn't notice that. I was not expecting to have the north boundary line be anything different than what we quieted title to. When I made this discovery, unfortunately, after we had filed our variance application, Ron then provided that second survey that unfortunately had other errors. But now we have this revised survey that was provided June 12th.
It still has errors.
In my opinion, the survey does not have errors. The fact that the bearings are different from the record description, that, and I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining this right, but it is just strictly the difference in the bearing. It isn't an error in where the corners are actually located. The measurement is the same. It's just the degrees, minutes, and seconds are slightly different because of the Hubbard County bearing coordinate system. That would not be an error. The other error is not on the survey, it's just in the written legal description. It's simply a typographical error of the 89-degree boundary line. That is, it's like a proofing error.
Let me ask a question this way. If I look at the drawing, okay, Eric, could you put up the drawing we were looking at? Forgetting about the description, that open circle on the right-hand side, that's 51 minutes, 33 seconds, 171.31 feet from the official thing, is an agreed to, a new pin, okay? Is the pin on the left 586 feet away that sits on the shoreline, is in fact that truly 0 or 90 degrees or whatever you want to say, truly a straight east-west line on this drawing?
Correct.
So why can that change? How could that change? If a surveyor can't put up a transom and measures east and west on a straight line, he probably shouldn't be certified. No, I shouldn't say that.
He's retiring.
Huh?
He is retiring.
Oh, okay. So he has
I
my
think this may
he has my
be one
mental
of
capacity
his
then.
last projects.
Yeah, well, if everybody agrees to the pin on the right, it shouldn't be hard to run a straight east-west line, right?
Correct.
If we agreed. And so this solid point here, is that an existing pin?
Yes.
Which one are you?
The one right on the lake?
Correct. That is existing.
Oh, so the question is that really straight east and west from the new pin over here? That's the question then, right, Eric? If that dark circle, an existing pin, if it is not straight east and west from the open circle one, then there could be a problem. Okay?
Yeah, like this pin shown as being existing one on the different revisions, that has at times been shown as being on
the
the
line.
due east line.
Being what?
This pin has sometimes shown on this
Oh,
line instead of where it's at now.
this.
Yes,
I'm not
that
worried about that. I'm thinking about this one over here that established that whole line. That's a new pin they're putting in, but if you're worried about whether that east-west line is in fact really east-west, is it just drawn on here from that to that old stake, or is it in fact a straight east-west from this point here? See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you say that isn't.
Well, I'm saying the shown existing pin at the midpoint, or essentially the midpoint near where the proposed boundary line is, that has moved north and south over the various revisions. So while he's found this pin at the shoreline and supposedly has located that accurately. The same was to have been the case with that pin at the midway, and that one's jumped around. So,
Ron did explain that in the explanation letter as his variation of that being an error on his drawings.
This is Mike. Can I ask a question a little different? The survey, what we're really getting to is what is the distance at the ordinary high water mark, and that may vary, so it's either needs a variance or it doesn't need a variance. Are we talking 1 foot, 20 foot? It's a relatively, in my mind, small amount of distance. When I visually looked at that property, and I'm not a surveyor and I'm not a lawyer, my decision on how this affects the lake is not going to be based so much on what this survey says and whether it's 151 feet or 142 feet or whatever it may be. It's what effect does it have on the lake? And all of that minutia on the survey, and I shouldn't call it minutia, really doesn't change my opinion on if in fact a variance is needed because it doesn't meet the 150 feet. It doesn't play into that. That's for legal minds and surveyors to decide, and how that affects people, I don't know. But I don't see wherever that line is drawn, how that changes my opinion on what's happening to the actual lake by making this division. I didn't see, in my mind, I don't see impacts that would prevent me from okaying this with some possible conditions.
This is Veronica speaking, and to my understanding, that pin is relevant due to the alternate septic site, but we can get more information from Eric. Eric, you can give us that, if that pin is valuable as far as that goes, from his determination. I mean, is that the situation here? Is that alternate septic site as well, and if it's gonna meet setback and stuff like that? Since it does vary 1 to 16 to 19 feet?
maybe.
But I mean, that's the possibilities with that jog out there was strictly for the septic, the alternate septic.
The jog in the line moved the line farther back to the east.
Where it jogs out and over, where it's where the alternate septic for this riparian side. That's what you'd mentioned when we were looking at it, when we were talking about the alternate septic site. You said that jog was created for that 20 by 30 alternate septic. So it does sort of pertain to not so much the effect on the lake at this point, but the alternate septic site.
You're saying if this is wrong, this could drop down, and then you don't have an alternate site here, is that the
Well, or
point you're making?
you wouldn't meet the setback distance for the alternate site from the side lot line.
Would that in any way, if that track one lot were ever sold, and then they would discover that that point is incorrect, it would not affect that lot at all. It would only affect the remainder lot, right? The drain field and the remainder lot is the only thing that's affected, up to Mike's point, is the only thing, if you found that was a little bit different, the only thing that it might affect, it's maybe 140 instead of 150 feet, is that you might be constrained for an alternate septic site.
Right, and their current site is already 50 years old.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, and I was just confirming that your current site septic is 50 years old.
There are other solutions, though.
What kind of solutions? I mean,
Into mounds
experimental.
or tanks or, well, you know, other things you could do.
That would be the septics, and that's their background for, not mine.
I, I have a hard time believing that you can't measure east-west correctly.
True.
What was that?
It would require another variance in the
Right,
future.
exactly.
So by solving one problem, you may create another problem, possibly in the future.
Correct.
Staff report I'm looking for.
Mike gave us his information that he's okay with going forward with this application. How are the other two members?
What type of conditions were you kind of thinking about, Mike?
Well, I think the only conditions that come to my mind, one is the rules itself on the non-riparian lot where they're restricted on what the guest cabin could be. And on the riparian lot would be it's automatically covered, so it really doesn't need to be a condition that any violations be cleared up before
I see.
this goes into effect.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Mike, on that. I could do it, I guess, and,
Mr. Hubbard, what's the reason for wanting an additional 8 bedrooms on that tract 1?
Well, grandchildren become fathers. I have several grandchildren. Since we purchased that piece of land, purposely, because it was just what we wanted, okay? And I've always looked to the east and looked at 2/5 of the lot, 3/5 of the lot, rather. We can't use it. And as the family has grown, you know, we've done things, and they're not adequate anymore. And we came originally with the idea, and we didn't know about the rules as far as, so we, in 2021, we came into the office there, and they gave my son and I the rules on building a guest cabin. And that led to the pouring of the slab that fall, because and it shouldn't have been. We should have waited till spring. But the contractor who couldn't come that fall, all of a sudden called and said, you know, we can do that right now. Okay, we shouldn't have said, okay, because didn't think about that. But the reason is we want to use that space.
Do you ever think about selling that at all? that
Not
lot?
at all.
Short-term rental?
No, this is besides the farm that I have, which is this is not going out of the family.
And Eric, they couldn't build additional structures without splitting this lot off, right?
Additional dwellings, they could have as many accessory structures as the
Yeah.
impervious surface would allow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can't do
So
anything.
this is their way of enabling having additional living space for
Yes.
family.
And using that piece of land.
Eric, this is Veronica speaking. What is the deadline for, if this, I'm just saying, if this was tabled, what's their deadline to have documents submitted to you to be on next month's agenda? What date is the meeting for next month? It's a little bit closer than, it's a little early. It's not quite at the end of the month.
Let me look.
Your point.
July 22nd.
Oh.
So July 18th is the lot view, so what would your
I'm personally willing to move forward tonight with the condition that that guest cabin area in the garage be disabled.
I'd need it,
They've been driving in that 20-foot easement for 50 years, and it's still the same family. I don't know,
It's the deadline, Eric.
by
I can't
the
believe
11th,
the
if I
surveyor
was gonna
can't measure east and west.
comment
If
on
he
it in the
can't,
staff
he should be
report.
fired.
Otherwise, we could receive it later, up to Wednesday, the 17th.
I missed what you were, the conversation you were just.
I just was asking what the deadline was. I don't see the harm in doing everything exact properly. If you want to make a motion to approve the application with conditions that all numbers, bearings, minutes, degrees, whatever is gonna meet the satisfaction to ESO staff to go forward with that, then somebody's welcome to make a motion like that. Otherwise, I would present a motion tabling the application, because at this point, there's no reason not to.
Could surveyors are expensive. The issue is that east-west line properly located? Could you ask a surveyor to verify that without having to verify all the rest of the boundaries on the residual lot and so on? Or, that's the issue, right? That north boundary.
Well, yeah, there's the couple different discrepancies that Eric has brought to the attention, so,
But it all resolves around that.
yeah.
I know your side.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be right. I'd like it to be correct. It looks like maybe verification should be important to us. But, so, it's up to my colleagues, but I will go ahead today if somebody made the motion.
I've given my point. I will make a motion to table the application.
The thing that is bothering me is that corner that could haunt us with setbacks and needing space and exactly, it's not clear.
It's not been clear.
Nothing's clear for what's gonna be used for an alternate, what the setbacks are gonna be from what line, and
Okay, so you're on the side of,
I'm back and forth, but
This is Mike, I'm going back and forth too, is regardless of what the new survey a verification may say, I don't think it'll change my opinion. But then again, when you look at, are we creating the problems for owners and a board down the road?
yeah.
I'm backtracking now, saying I don't wanna put a future board in a situation that they've gotta clean up something that we had oversight over.
And we've made
so-
a few mistakes like that in the past.
I'm gonna backtrack and based on that I don't want those things to haunt us, especially when you look at that alternate's more than likely gonna be used.
If they could,
Yeah.
Murray surveying with. Okay,
if somebody wants to put the dimensions on a piece of paper and submit it to us and say, this is where it is, this is how far it is, this is how big it is, and it's gonna fit.
So are you asking for another surveyor to verify this survey?
Basically, that would be the thing, is to verify the accuracy of the latest version, but however, the latest version has discrepancies, not only because your written description doesn't match your survey. So I personally would request an entire new survey from a different company, because then everything will be different. We're not gonna have any more, well, I did it again, sorry.
I hear what you're saying. It's disappointing, the survey work.
Unfortunately, it's not getting us anywhere.
On the side of Al, the version of the survey he had at that point was showing 52 feet for this line segment, and on the last version submitted, it's 59, so you got
7 feet.
7 feet that,
And he just put a 20 by 30 square foot up there, don't know which way the 20 or 30 is, and we don't know which, how far we are from the corner to that angle line, I don't know. Or if that's the setback line around there.
Yes.
it is.
So he could be up to that setback line with the drawing.
That's an interesting point. You turn the 20, 30 around, you gain 10 feet, is it gonna, if there's room there.
Well, the new survey, we could also say that it has that alternate site placement, so that we can see.
I'm confident in the non-riparian spot, we looked at that and.
Right.
And that looked good, even without being marked.
Correct.
In this case, I suppose knowing that it is common ownership, there is room for an easement to be granted for a septic site location. I know that the owner of the non-riparian lot would grant that to the riparian lot.
That, what you said, that is marked. He marked that jog, and he marked the septic need within it.
He marked what in there?
He marked what would give him room, and then he marked the exact requirement
And that was,
inside of that.
that was Don Umphin.
Oh, okay. I was talking when I looked at the non-riparian, I didn't see, I just seen it all cleared off and no marks.
Oh,
When I
In the
was
back,
at,
you're
when I was at the
talking?
lot view.
Yeah.
And looking at what he laid out, of course, it's in the woods. But I found his white flags. He allowed for, well, he had it marked, this is how big it,
If they just could
it has to be.
verify that point.
And then this is how
as
big
being straight
the
east
jog
and west.
is.
Yeah.
And it fit within that.
Right? Doesn't have to do.
That's all I
a
can-
survey.
Verify, and he wrote on the
Run
flags
around to the various.
what he was doing.
And he went off from somebody's survey line.
He went off from the pin, which is at the south end. That's what, he went from there to the north. And when he, and I think because he knew that it's bigger than the requirement. Because it is, yeah, I don't know, it's like, you gotta have high boots back there. And, I don't know, I'm not him, but I talked to him and he said, yeah, there's plenty of room.
Well, this is
all.
Veronica. I'm going to, I don't know that we're gonna come to a conclusion tonight. There's too many variables
Obviously
and.
not.
So I am going to make a motion that we table the application to give the applicant time to submit a survey from another surveyor to verify this accuracy, and I table it for the July meeting. That would be my motion. I just don't think, and I would like it to be sure to have all the alternate, everything that's required from the subdivision ordinance, including those alternate sites on the survey.
Sure.
Because that's necessary, especially with the situation, that one's 50 years old.
Do you, should we say the accuracy of the survey or the accuracy of the placement of the north-south line? Because that's the issue. Right. That's less work, less time. Except, I mean, I'm just offering that as a thought.
I'm unsure because there were other pins up here that I thought were different as well when they had different documentation on the other one that they had mentioned. I would,
Okay.
Eric, are you most interested in just that one line, or would you, according to your staff report, an entire survey?
The north line's the one that's been moving around.
Right.
If you have just the north line surveyed, you could potentially just get a survey of that line provided, and then you wouldn't have a way of measuring the width
Correct.
and seeing how that changes the lot area and buildable area. Not that those have sufficient margin, they aren't really a significant concern, but the only way to really have apples to apples would have a full survey of the whole property, or at least have somebody review this survey and say, yes, it's spot on now, or whatever they would say if they didn't feel that it was.
I believe that an entire survey is necessary.
State again what you want.
Yes, with all requirements from the subdivision application, including alternate sites on the survey.
Okay.
Anybody care to second?
This is Mike. In an effort to move this along, I'll second that motion.
Okay, this is motion made by Veronica to table the application to give the applicants time to have another surveyor survey the property for accuracy. And a second by Mike. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
How about I?
Mike, how do you vote?
Mike, I vote aye.
And this is Veronica, I vote aye.
So I should keep this one open too then.
So I'm gonna say, is there something that says this is the last one?
Is there, I think it does.
I gotta say thank you guys for your diligent efforts. I
I want
apologize.
to make sure when we stamp something, we stamp it appropriately.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
next thing, we have miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous or communications?
Just info relative to next month's agenda. We have 6, maybe 7 variance applications and 1 conditional use permit amendment application.
And then what?
Conditional use permit amendment application.
Okay. Anything else?
This is Mike.
Oh, and the land use training registration window is now open, so if in the next week you can let me know if you would be able to attend, and I can send out the date again.
Date again,
August 28th?
September.
Oh, I thought it was August 28th.
That sounds right. Let me
It's my husband's birthday. It's August 28th.
see if I can pull it up here quick.
While you're doing that, next month, if you don't hear from me, I will be here from the lot views. If somehow my flight from Norway is delayed the day before, I will text Eric and let him know I'm not gonna make the site views.
Okay, thank you. Is that a Thursday then now? It's not the 28th, it's a Thursday?
Yeah.
August 29th?
Yeah.
What day of the week is that?
That's what we're verifying.
Thursday.
No, okay.
It's a Thursday, yeah. And that, yeah, I think they had initially said it was on the 28th, and then they changed it.
Okay, thank you.
So it's Thursday, August 29th.
Correct.
Okay.
And it was in St. Cloud, is it still in St. Cloud?
Yeah, they didn't change that.
Didn't change that, okay. Okay,
You
anything
want us
else?
to confirm that to you?
Yeah, just
we're
let me know if you
available or not
can
available.
make it so I can sign you up.
Okay.
All right. Anybody care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ken made a motion to adjourn. Mike seconded. Tim, how do you vote?
This is Tim, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
I vote
And
aye.
this is Veronica, I vote aye. Meeting adjourned.
Good job.